Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube. Happy Mock Draft Monday, everybody. We have a very special Mock Draft Monday today, Sam.
Oh, yeah? How special? Why?
Dueling mocks.
Dueling?
This might be my favorite version that we do. Every now and then, usually once in the cycle, you get the gurus, Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah. You get them mocking at about the same time. Usually it's like staggered. It's uneven, but they both dropped mocks last week, and we get to break them both down. Dueling mocks, and then we get to accuse both of them of copying each other.
Yeah.
And say, oh man, like they're both they got the same pick. Plagiarism.
Who published first?
Yeah, well, it was Mel, but then he changed later. He made some. He
changed later. Unlikely because DJ had something different though.
No, I know. We have fun with it, but
trade happened.
I think we did one of these last year, Mel and DJ at the same time, so it's worth going through. It's all brought to you by FanDuel, coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies. We're in the middle of it, draft season. It's a month from today, I believe,
really?
Actually. April 23rd? Today's March 23rd.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess, yeah.
That's a month.
Sure.
It's not like on Monday.
4 weeks.
But it's, 31 days. 31 days in March, in case you forgot. So, yeah, we get the draft coming up soon. We got nonstop draft coverage right here on the channel leading up to that. We haven't announced what we're doing on draft night, but it's no big surprise. We'll be here. Will other people be here with us? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we'll be here on draft night, so make sure you make your plans early to join us as your second screen. Or maybe your main screen. Who knows?
Yeah, you don't need a second. I mean, we should be
Maybe you need the TV.
Maybe you need the TV.
Maybe we're the main screen. You choose between ESPN and NFL as your second screen.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good
TV
idea.
could be on mute. We can be there. Your main screen, main analysis.
I would definitely mute them.
Yeah.
All right, man. You ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. So, again, Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, mock drafts dropped early last week. Both had to adjust a little bit with the Jalen Waddle trade.
Right.
Jalen Waddle got traded to Denver. Mel had already published, so he went back in. He went back to work. They had to wake him up on Tuesday and say, Mel, we need more work from you.
Shake him out of the coffin.
On Tuesday. So we had to edit the mock with the Jalen Waddle trade. Jalen Waddle going to the Broncos. And DJ was like right at publish time, I believe. So there were some adjustments, and we do get to, for the first time, see how that's going to affect the draft for multiple teams here.
Yeah. That used to happen all the time when we were doing mocks. Something would happen right as after you'd made your mock, and now it's
editor would call you,
worthless.
Hey, let's not shake it up too much. Can we just flip these couple picks?
But the thing you did is it doesn't work anymore.
The funny thing is when you have somebody at like 31, you're like, what if I made him number 21 now and then put this other guy at 31? Then we're good. Then we're good. Everything else stays the same.
It's always fine.
You want to change as little as possible.
Right. When it's really low down in the draft order, you can be like, well, whoever missed the first round, could you sneak in now?
Switch it.
But when it's like the 11th overall pick, that messes some stuff up.
All right, we'll go through picks 1 through 5 here, starting with the Godfather, Mel Kiper. He has Fernando Mendoza going number 1, as does DJ.
Yeah, that part is the standard mock opening this
But we'll
year.
come back. We'll come back and talk about it. New York Jets, David Bailey from Texas Tech. And we've said all along, divergence at 2. David Bailey at number 2. Arizona Cardinals have Arvell Reese from Ohio State, the edge/linebacker. He still calls them outside linebackers, which is great.
Oh, there was a bit of a brouhaha because Bucky Brooks they put out a graphic. Now I'm almost certain Bucky Brooks had nothing to do with this. Whoever puts out their graphics, it was like, here's the top edge rushers, and it was just his outside linebackers list as opposed to his defensive ends list, which is different.
It's different.
So It was all the guys, all the small guys, and then Reuben Bain, who's his number 1 defensive end, was nowhere in the top 5. They're like, well, what's with this?
Mel has Jeremiah Love at number 4 for the Tennessee Titans. This is catching some steam here.
Yeah.
And then the New York Giants at number 5 have Caleb Downs, the Ohio State safety. So Mendoza, Bailey, Reese, Love, and Downs for Mel in the dueling mock, which they're not trying to duel, but we're making them. Mendoza number 1 for Daniel Jeremiah. Arvell Reese is number 2 for DJ, going to the Jets. Francis Maui Noah is number 3, going to the Arizona Cardinals, the offensive tackle out of Miami. Jeremiah Love also number 4 for the Tennessee Titans. And then Sonny Styles, a different Ohio State defender. Sonny Styles, the linebacker, going to the New York Giants at 5. So they agree on 1 and 4. Mendoza at 1,
Yep.
which we've all said forever.
Yes.
But the Titans at 4. There's no bigger happening coming out of the combine than this right here. The number of people who are saying the Tennessee Titans, who still have questions on the defensive line, at receiver, at key position groups, going with Jeremiah Love at number 4.
Yeah, so it's interesting because we've said all along this draft diverges at 2 immediately. Like you get Mendoza's locked in, slam dunk, going at number 1, and then everybody seems to have a different number 2. For a while, we had Ruben Bain at 2. Now it seems like the most common option is either David Bailey or Arvell Reese. And it's interesting that these two guys went with each one, right? Like they literally diverged at the first possible opportunity to. One went with David Bailey, one went with Arvell Reese, and then circle back, and the both of them are on the same page when it comes to Jeremiah Love at 4 to the Titans.
Yeah, so I still think 2 is going to be open. You know, I think the last time we looked at the odds.
But it does sound like it is between those two guys, and each one of them went one side of it.
I honestly wonder how much the Bain arm length thing knocked him out of consideration there for the Jets at 2.
I don't know.
Or if that's just the
feel
assumption.
Even though this apparently is a controversial statement, I feel like his relative lack of twitch would have found detractors even had his arm length been normal, right? Like, because they may still end up being, you know, the pro day is still to come. There might be an inch tacked onto his arm length all of a sudden, and then it's slightly less of a crazy conversation. But I feel like we would have been nitpicking Ruben Bain anyway. At this point, the arm length thing just made it easy. It's like, wow, immediately you're a complete outlier. Let's forget about it.
He wins differently.
I know.
Bain
but
is,
I sort of feel like people would have soured on him already.
Yeah. I can't believe we got someone call us out for the Twitch thing, but that's fine. Quickness. Bailey's got it. So, yeah, the Bain wins differently. As we've talked about, the power and bend, the get-off isn't necessarily there. The arm length brings in more questions, more different ways to win. He'll still be going. I still think he's going to end up going top 10 somewhere here. So Bailey at 2 for Mel, Arvell Reese at 2 for Daniel Jeremiah.
Yep.
Going back to Mendoza really quick, we are in a world where there's a lot of different ways to break down the draft and people breaking down the draft. I'm starting to see, just to talk quarter, because next year maybe it'll be different. We usually spend a lot of time breaking down the quarterbacks.
Right.
Back, 2 years ago when there were 6 first-round quarterbacks, we spent a lot of time. We have not talked about draft quarterbacks at all on this show. But if you're on social media, you start to see slightly different opinions. There's always somebody. There's no more sleepers. We're going to do a sleeper show in a couple weeks, but there's no more sleepers because there's always somebody.
Right.
Always somebody. But you're starting to see a few people, Cole Payton, few people, Drew Aller. Drew Aller was predictable. Like someone's going to like Drew Aller. Someone's going to blame Penn State and the system. It's a very college-y type of system.
I know it's like a drinking game. We always refer to at some point. But Drew Aller actually is what Christian Hackenberg was supposed to be. Like he's just a bag of tools. Who's not very good at playing the position. Hackenberg wasn't even the bag of tools. He was just a bad football player, and that's why he was never any good. Aller at least has the tools that Hackenberg was supposed to possess. And so that, like, Hackenberg went in the second round ostensibly because he had this bag of tools and theoretically there's a quarterback in there somewhere. I don't think that was ever true with him. It is true with Aller, though. Like, the tools are there physically. You can see the arm. Like, you can see why somebody would look at Aller's tape and find the good plays and be like, well, if we just drop this highlight reel, it looks great. You know, he could be a good quarterback. Yeah, but what about the rest of it?
The similarity to Hackenberg, too, is someone might say, well,
Penn State, blah, blah, blah.
Penn State, but, like, it's go back to his first start.
Right.
Go back to –
He really is.
There was a period – there was a point, like, early in Aller's career where it's like, all right, this is a really good start to his career. And then the projection was, okay, we assume he's going to get better.
You honestly could take the narrative for Christian Hackenberg's draft status and overlay it onto Drew Aller, and you wouldn't need to change anything. Like, other than changing the name of Allen Robinson for Tyler Warren, like, cross out Allen Robinson, put in Tyler Warren, and the entire scouting report reads the same.
Anyway, just figured I'd touch on the QBs just a little bit.
But
Mendoza
it feels like Cam Ward last year, right? Where we had to keep reminding ourselves that we've basically not talked about Cam Ward at all because it was just a slam dunk. He was going to go number one after a reasonable amount of the process. And when there's no conversation to be had because it's happening, it feels like you just never talk about it. That's where we are with Mendoza. It's like he is going number one to the Raiders. And there's only so many ways you can talk about that. So you just end up not talking about Mendoza.
But even more so, we haven't talked about many quarterbacks beyond.
But that's
Ty
because it
Simpson,
feels like nobody else is going to go high. So
right.
Why bother?
Next
we
year,
talked a reasonable amount about Shedeur Sanders last year and Jackson Dart because it was like, well, they could go in the first round, one of whom did. And that's why, you talk those guys up. Like we didn't talk about the other, like the lower down quarterbacks that much just because they're not going to go in the first.
The third pick for Mel being Arvell Reese for the Cardinals. So DJ's got Arvell Reese at 2. Mel has him at 3. So either way, Reese is the guy that's going top 3 in both. Still just a fascinating.
That feels, again, pretty locked in, right?
Yeah.
Like he's the one I think that doesn't slide no matter what happens. Like there's a bunch of different ways these drafts can play out. I think several players could slide, like not be in the top 3, 4, or 5 picks, right? If the draft falls a certain way, Reese is the one guy that I can't see a way really that he gets out of the top 5 picks.
And then with DJ going Francis Maui-Noah at 3 to the Arizona Cardinals, this one's popped up quite a bit.
Yeah.
For various mock drafts. That is
because they still have that right tackle
hole. Right. We did the draft needs the other day. They need a starting right tackle. He would be a plug-and-play right tackle. He's going to go a little bit lower in Mel's mock. My only thing about the Cardinals is I don't want to pigeonhole them just into like they're going to get the right tackle. I think they have the market's there for them to just grab the best defensive player on the board, whoever they love the most, and that might be a better play for them. But I get it. The glaring need at right tackle is glaring. It's a big one.
Well, it's the perfect sort of test of that, right? Like I think in DJ's mock, it's like, do you take that right tackle, plug and play, or Mike Kiper's mock. Or do you just say, well, Arvell Reese is special. We're taking him at 3 because he's available. Meanwhile, in DJ's mock, Arvell Reese is gone. It's probably not the same question for David Bailey, who's the guy available in this spot. It's, Maui Noah versus David Bailey, as opposed to, like, Arvell Reese because of the theoretical special, unique quality of him. Like, that's why I don't think he slides. Now, people have made the point that people fall in love with the idea of what these guys can be more like Isaiah Simmons, right? Like the idea of this sort of linebacker-shaped safety, it just becomes enticing. Oh, we could do amazing things, and then he ends up being a special teamer, right? The idea of these guys is often significantly more enticing than the reality of them, but the idea is real. Like there's power to what teams' imagination can create when they start thinking about, what could we do with an Arvell Reese? So for that reason alone, that's why I think Arvell Reese is sort of locked into the top 5, whereas I could imagine a world where David Bailey slides because they're like, is he great against the run? Is he a deep designated pass rusher only? Is he too limited in what he does? Blah, blah, blah. It's too easy to sort of nitpick his negatives, whereas with Arvell Reese, like the world is your oyster in terms of imagination.
That's such a good point, Sam. Kudos to you.
Thank you, Steve.
The battle, so first off, we've got our draft profiles coming out on the channel here, so go check those out.
Bit.
Video section. Our members are getting
3 more today after the show.
Our members are getting a first look at some of those, and so the membership tier, you get to, we'll be doing some right after the show here today. Mm-hmm. But those 3, Arvell Reese and Ruben Bain and David Bailey, I do feel like you could sum it up to, if Arvell Reese develops, he could be as good as a run defender and as disruptive as Ruben Bain if he develops.
Right.
If he develops, he could be as good of a pass rusher as David Bailey. But because Bailey and Bain are closer to finished products in what they are, like you said, you can nitpick, well, Bailey doesn't do this against the run. He doesn't set a hard edge or whatever your nitpick would be, or he doesn't turn the corner the way we would want. Or Bain, arm length, the get off. He doesn't have these things. But Arvell Reese is more mystery boxish, and you could easily talk yourself into, okay, we haven't seen the deficiencies yet because we haven't tried him often enough. He's got 100 snaps on the edge, and that's it. So, man, it's such a a fascinating discussion, and I hate leaning toward mystery boxes in the top 10, in the top 5 especially.
I mean, I love doing it, but you have to acknowledge that it's a massive risk, which people don't tend to. Like, people tend to fixate on the upside of the mystery box as opposed to the risk.
All right, let's talk Jeremiah Love at 4.
Let's.
There's
PFF apparently had a trade where Tennessee went to 2 to get him for some reason, which is one of the crazier things I can think of.
They're just really mailing it in as the analytial site, huh?
I mean, whatever about taking a running back at 2 and trading up to get him. Why would they even need to do that? Who are they jumping ahead of? Arizona?
Who did that?
I didn't see.
Name names.
I didn't see. Somebody just said, PFF's done this. This is crazy. I'm like, yes, it is. And then moved on with my life.
Putting a bad name on the former company. What the heck? Yeah, Jeremiah Love at 4 feels aggressive enough.
On itself, yeah.
And I'll just say this. Like, the Titans did some work on the defensive line. They brought in Jermaine Johnson. They've got just more bodies up front. But I think pass rush is still a big need. And then at receiver, they bring back Calvin Ridley. They bring in Wan'Dale Robinson. Receiver is still a need.
Yeah. I mean, even just that, right? Like, Carnell Tate versus Jeremiah Love. Which one of those guys do you imagine having a bigger impact for this team in year one, given the current state of this roster? I can't really see how. Well, I can't see how. To me, the balance of probabilities is that Carnell Tate makes a significantly bigger impact to that team than Love would.
This feels like it leans on the blue chip discussion, and
I don't think you even need to go that far. I think you just need to go straight. Again, the flow chart with a running back, A, B, start. Does your offensive line immediately give this guy the capacity to be an impact Saquon Barkley 2,000-yard player or not? Their offensive line currently is Dan Moore Jr., no. Peter Skoronski, sure. Austin Schlottman, Cordell Volston, J.C. Latham. One of those guys maybe gives them the ability to do that. The other 4 don't.
And maybe they get Kevin Zeitler back, who's still out there.
Yeah, and we've still got some work. We can tinker around the edges. Like, we could draft a guy, right? But, like, that 5 right now is the answer to that is no.
But the other side of that is going to be, okay, look up and down the draft. This is where you talk yourself into Jeremiah Love at 4. You're like, he's the best. I think Dan Orlovsky said he's the best football player in the draft. You hear that phrase a lot. Best football player in the draft.
Now, that's the one position where that's not enough.
No, I get it. I'm just saying that's a different conversation. Caleb Downs, best player in the draft.
Yeah.
If you say those things, the next step is like, okay, now is that guy worth going in the top 5 because of the position and the usage and how much you're going to pay him? He's going to be a top 8, paid running back at 4. And so I don't know if this is. I don't know where this is. I don't know if this is smoke because there was a lot of rumors that, hey, the Titans love Jeremiah Love. Yeah. They love him.
Coming out of the combine, this is like almost from that moment on, it was like locked in. Everyone's just saying it's happening. Like that was the logic for, the Chiefs and the Saints making running back moves. He's never getting this far, right? All of a sudden, it's like he's going at 4. But it's running back, I think, is the one position where before you get to any of the other stuff, value, contract amount, all that thing, the initial starting point in your flow chart is the infrastructure there for him to succeed at all? Because if it's not, don't even think about it. And you look at that offensive line, I don't think you can make the argument that we know it is. Like even if you're Tennessee, right, and you want to do this, so you're skewing towards the positivity outlook, I don't see how you could look at that starting 5 offensive line right now and say, definitely. Like, this is definitely good enough that the running back can come in and instantly turbocharge this entire offense. I don't see how you could make that argument.
I'm trying to jump into what the conversations look like for the Titans as well, where Brian Daboll comes in as offensive coordinator, and there's 2 sides of this conversation where you could say the best year that he had offensively with the Giants was 2022. That was his first year. Way back in 22 when they got a good year out of Daniel Jones and a really good year out of Saquon Barkley. It was the first year that they got the proper production out of Saquon Barkley, and they get the 11 wins and the whole thing. We cite this season all the time as an outlier given the roster for the Giants. They weren't an awful roster, but they overachieved, and they got the most out of Daniel Jones and Saquon. And so you could easily go back to that, but the counter to that, in these draft meetings with the Titans is, well, Daboll was also there where Saquon had 3.9 yards per carry, and then he leaves and goes to the Eagles and averages about 6 yards per carry the next year because of the situation. right? So we just have so much evidence here against the running back piece, but you could easily talk yourself into, well, we're going to run Cam Ward a little bit more. We're going to put him in the backfield with Jeremiah Love. The phrase taking pressure off the quarterback comes up all the time when people draft a running back. And on our list of things I mentioned last week, I do want to go back through some of these historical axioms, so to speak, and draft rules and evaluate how well they've done and evaluate, was Bijan the right pick for the Falcons? Was Saquon the right pick? Did they get the best value out of them? Can we look historically and put some data to it? And so we'll be working on that in the coming weeks here. And let us know if there's other things that you want us to unpack, like these old draft rules and axioms and debates that we had, and just kind of rehashing them and also flipping them forward here. So still a fascinating discussion, but both Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper have love to the Titans at 4. It's getting really smoky around there.
I mean, there's enough people that have it out there that it seems like that's one of the most likely picks to happen in the draft. And I think right now that would be kind of crazy. And I think he's a really good player. I just think that, again, the starting point in your flow chart for making a decision about running back this high is, do you have the offensive line in front of him? And I don't see how you can make the case that the Titans do.
And then at pick 5, as I said, different Ohio State defenders. Mel has Caleb Downs, the safety, and DJ's got Sonny Styles. Any thoughts on either of those players before we move to 6 through 10?
I mean, I like the Downs pick. That's another one of those ones of, how high can you take this safety? Particularly for Downs, because relative to some other sort of high-end safety prospects that have come along where you're asking the similar question, he's unspectacular in terms of, there's no sort of physical freakness to him, right? You're not looking at this guy and going, wow, look at the size, the speed, the range. Obviously, he's an elite NFL specimen. It's like he's normal size, and he's probably average speed as well. There's nothing about him that you're like, wow, this is physically insane. It's just that he's been one of the best football players in the country from the moment he stepped on the field, right? And you're like, well, how high can you take a guy that's just an awesome safety? The end. There's no, he's not mythical. He's not a superhero. He's just one of the best safeties to come along for years. How high can you draft a guy like that? And I like the idea that John Harbaugh in particular, now that he has power, now that he's got final say in New York, it's just like, yeah, to hell with it. Just take it. He's an awesome safety. Don't overthink it. Take him at 5.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Sonny Styles crushed the combine.
Right.
The Styles brothers crushed the combine. Downs has been a better player.
Yeah.
At his position than Styles has, but we're not going to have workout, testing numbers on Downs. And like you said, he's not 6'3", 220. He's not Eamon Worry size. He's not Kyle Hamilton size, but just a good football player. And you got to figure out the role and the whole thing.
He's also I think there's probably some power to the idea that for years, all these too early mock draft, all these look ahead mock drafts that are years in advance. Downs has always been a top 5 player every year. Someone's going, oh, Caleb Downs is amazing. And then we get to draft time, yeah, but you can't take that in the top 10. What
of
happened?
all the drafts, though, this should be it.
What happened? Right. Nothing has changed. You knew that when you were saying that 2 years ago, you knew all of the axioms have remained the same. And now we're getting to draft time. We're like, oh, you can't take that guy in the top 10. Again, like you said, in this draft of all others, where it's there's not an overabundance of players that are pushing him down. It's if ever there was a draft to take this guy in the top 5, it's this one.
Right, 2 years ago
is when you're saying it's not going to happen.
2 years ago when there were 6 quarterbacks in the top 12
right.
and all these other receivers and blue chip players at various positions, and Laiatu Latu doesn't come off the board till 14,
right.
and Jared Verse goes to 19. All these players, that would be interesting to do. What if you just dropped this group of defensive players into the 2024 NFL draft, where Caleb Williams, Drake May, and all the QBs, and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze, all these high value positions are going top 10 to 12, and then it's Reuben Bain at 14, and David Bailey at 18, that. It's a lot, what if you took Jared Verse and Laiatu Latu and Dallas Turner, those edge rushers, and dropped them into this class? You'd be talking about Dallas Turner at 2.
Yeah,
because he was getting hype at 8
right.
in that draft.
I mean,
it's interesting, but that's why Caleb Downs should be in the mix in the top 5 to 10.
Yeah, there are draft classes where I think you could make the argument that, you can't take a guy like Downs in the top 5 or whatever. This just isn't one of them. And more to the point, it hasn't changed since people were putting him in the top 5 for the last several years. So I don't understand how you get a guy who's like start to finish one of the best players in the entire country for his entire career. Everyone has kind of earmarked this guy as one of the best, a certain top 10, top 5 draft pick. And then we get to the actual draft and everyone's like, no, he's got to slide. Like, why? And in this one, he doesn't. The Giants take him at 5.
All right, we'll get to pick 6 through 10 in a minute here. But first, true or false? Incognito mode makes you invisible on the internet.
True.
No, the answer is false, Sam.
Oh.
Most people have no idea, but your browsing history can still be monitored and recorded by bad actors unless you use ExpressVPN. When you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, at airports, hotels, on the train, your online data is exposed to hackers who steal your passwords, bank logins, credit card details, and more. This is more important than ever. ExpressVPN creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. It works on all devices, phone, laptop, tablets, and more. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making it extremely difficult for third parties to track online activity. And it's easy to use. You just fire up the app and click one button to get protected. This is how I protect my IP address. Offered at the lowest price ever now. You get plans that start at $3.49 a month. That's literally about 12 cents a day. Rated number 1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/CTM. That's expressvpn.com/CTM to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months. expressvpn.com/CTM. All right, let's get to pick 6 through 10 here. Let's go the Godfather, Mel, first. He's got the Cleveland Browns taking offensive tackle Monroe Freeling from Georgia. And then he's got Sonny Styles coming off at 7 to the Washington Commanders. New Orleans Saints take Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Kansas City Chiefs get Reuben Bain, the edge out of Miami. And the Cincinnati Bengals take Mansour Delane, the cornerback out of LSU. DJ for the same 6 through 10. He's got Carnell Tate going to the Browns at 6. Then Reuben Bain at 7 to the Washington Commanders. David Bailey falls to 8 for DJ, going to the New Orleans Saints. Spencer Fano is the pick at 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs, the offensive tackle. And then the Bengals get Caleb Downs at 10. Let's start with pick 6 in the Browns here. The Monroe Freeling pick is the other one. So that's that's Mel taking Monroe Freeling. That's the other one coming out of the combine that has been really, really common. So Freeling versus Carnell Tate.
Well, it's also the option that you have for the Browns in every mock draft is do you go wide receiver or tackle? And again, they diverged here. One went wide receiver, one went tackle. With the name, as you said, that's become extremely in vogue.
I enjoy these discussions historically. Actually, you know what? Let's add that one. Let's do the Penei Sewell. Let's add that to the things we discussed for hours on end before the draft. Penei Sewell versus Jamar Chase. And then Joe Alt versus Malik Neighbors. Those were the two biggest tackle versus receiver discussions that we had. Now, the difference with that one, poor Browns, is when the Bengals had to make that choice, it's like, do I want this blue chip tackle or this blue chip wide receiver?
Right.
Both of whom have become two of the best players at their respective positions. The Chargers had the same decision. Do I want blue chip offensive tackle Joe Alt, blue chip wide receiver Malik Neighbors? What's better here? Do I go tackle first, receiver second, receiver first, tackle second? And both teams are happy with their pick. The Browns have a similar glaring need at tackle and receiver. And their question is, do I want developmental offensive tackle Monroe Freeling that everyone's giving me? Tackle Spencer Fano, who's under 33-inch arms, but much closer to 33 after his pro day.
Yeah.
Thankfully. They stretched him out a little bit. So do I want like non-blue chip tackle or developmental tackle? Or do I want the consensus top receivers, Carnell Tate, but is he really, there's some other receivers. He's not as good. He's not as blue chip as these other receivers in past years. So it's like the same discussion, but less slam dunky when it comes to the players that we're discussing here.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, like the Browns feel like they've really wound out unlucky from this draft in particular, the way it's manifested, and generally their approach, trading last year, assembling extra draft capital this year, essentially positioning themselves for a quarterback, and then there simply isn't really one available. Mendoza goes number 1, and then nobody really likes the second quarterback off the board this year, or at least certainly not at number 6 overall. When they made that trade, I'm sure they would have been thinking there would be a quarterback available at 6, and even if there wasn't, there would be one available, in the picks slightly above 6, where they would have the ammunition with their second first-round pick to be able to go target that guy, right? Even if they were thinking their second first-round pick would have been higher up than 24. Like even with 6 and 24, you're fairly well armed to go and get the guy at, 3 or whatever. And instead, it's like not only do you not have a quarterback to pick from, but the two positions that you do actually need, wide receiver and tackle, you're dealing with prospects that would not be offensive tackle or wide receiver 1 in most draft classes. So you got screwed by the quarterback thing, and you've been screwed by the fact that the positions you do have that you need are not amazing prospects either. I mean, they're good, but they're not, like Carnell Tate would not be wide receiver 1 in a lot of draft classes.
And people have heard me on this. Like, I'm a big Carnell Tate fan. It's just the two discussions we were just talking about. He's no Jamar Chase. I mean, I don't think he is. There's always It's always a possibility. I don't think he's as good as Jamar Chase. I don't think he's as good as
the
Malik
neighbors. Yeah. When we were saying that year, Marvin Harrison Jr. has not been the player that he was expected to be so far in his career. But as prospects, Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze, we were saying would be wide receiver 1 in most draft classes. I think all 3 of those guys would be wide receiver 1 in this draft class.
Yeah, I was a little bit lower on Odunze, so I'd probably have him and Tate similar. So again, I like Carnell Tate a lot. It's just there's so much luck involved in this whole thing. When you have high picks, the players that are available in that particular draft. Now the Browns seem to have high picks most years, but still, there's a little bit of luck involved here. Mm-hmm. If I had to choose, though, I'd take Carnell Tate over Monroe Freeling. I've got too many concerns about Freeling at this point.
And in that draft, Kiper's Freeling is the first tackle off the board.
Right.
So DJ's Maui Noah is already gone at this spot. For Kiper, this is the first tackle drafted.
And then we already said DJ's got Spencer Fano going at 9 to the Chiefs, so he squeezes 3 tackles into the top 10. And that's another one of those phrases that we say all the time. Well, the tackles are going to go higher than you think, and even though they look like players that should be drafted in the teens or the 20s, there is a scarcity problem. And that's what always ends up when I'm wrestling with this. There are always more receivers to choose than tackles. It is so much harder to grab a second, third, fourth round tackle. It's a lot easier to grab a second, third, fourth round receiver. Doesn't mean that they're always going to hit. That ended up being a big part of that Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors discussion. Remember how there was a plethora of receivers available late first, early second, and the Chargers end up getting Ladd McConkey. And it's like, man, that's take the tackle first. We know there's a lot more receivers on the turn. I think there's fewer in this year's draft than there were 2 years ago as far as prospects go. And I think that would be the reason maybe to lean Carnell Tate here if you're the Browns, rather than, I think, going projectable tackle. And that's me. I know a lot of people like Monroe Freeling. A lot of people think, yeah, of course. He's 6'7" and a great athlete at tackle. I mean, that's a top 10 pick. I think a lot of people buy that. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But Mel's going with the buzz.
Mel's going with the buzz. I mean, I think there's a fairly healthy chance that he does go as maybe the first tackle off the board and in the top 10, et cetera. It's just a surprise given where he was pre-combine.
All right. How about Ruben Bain going to Washington? Let's discuss Bain. Washington for DJ, and then Kansas City for Mel Kiper.
Yeah,
I think either team is thrilled.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that, the floor for either guy is top 10 somewhere. Like he might slide from 2, but he's not getting outside of the top 10. Like he's just too good. And this is where people, I think, come down with Ruben Bain. It's like you can quibble about the arm length. You can maybe be concerned that it turns out he's 15 pounds, maybe lighter than he could have been. And who knows what that actually is relative to what he plays at. This is the problem with colleges listing guys at ridiculous weights, and then you never know. You have to get the actual background of what he really played at,
right,
versus what he showed up to for the combine, for pro days, to run 40s, all these kinds of weird things. So that part is do your own research on it effectively. But this is the point. Like, no matter what you think of his flaws, his ceiling is insanely high. He's too good at the things he's good at for him to slide outside of the top 10.
Bane to Washington, given all of the moves that they just made on the defensive line.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love that. Because the thing we kept saying about Bane, if he's got special power and he's got his own, limitations, we'll say. But if he has special power, and now you're talking about Adafe Owe comes in free agency. They got Caleb Von Chase on a year. Charles Omenihu, Tim Settle comes in. And there's still maybe some work to do on the interior. But, man, you just add Bane to the group and what they did. I think my entire offseason tone around Washington is like the complete opposite of what they were last year. I thought they attacked free agency, hit on a bunch of needs. I think they have a golden opportunity to fill one of their two major. I don't even say two major needs. I think their major need is wide receiver 2. We talked about this last Thursday. Wide receiver 2 next to Terry McLaurin. So if they could get the top receiver on the board, or they could add Bane to that defensive line, I think you're thrilled if you're Washington. It's got to fall that way. You would need, like for me, if I'm Washington, I'd be rooting for the Browns to take up Monroe Freeling, a guy that I either don't need or I don't want, and hope that either a Tate or Bane falls there. And I'm thrilled if I'm the Commanders.
Yep.
The other one was Mel has Sonny Styles going to Washington. We talked about Styles a little bit. That fills a more acute need, I think, at linebacker for Washington. But again, that's Frankie Louvu, Leo Chanel. Like you could fit Styles into that group. Frankie Louvu moves around, might not be long for the Commanders anyway at this point in his career. But man, I'd much rather the defensive lineman. I think if I'm Washington.
Yeah, and I think Bane fits in any defense as well, just because of his versatility. Because you can move him around the line. You can put him inside, even if it's just on situational rushes, etc. Like you can line him up with anybody.
And then Bane to the Chiefs, where they need – I know we keep saying they need juice and burst and explosiveness off the edge. He doesn't necessarily bring that, but the power –
pressure.
Yeah, they need guys that can win one-on-one.
Right.
If you have him and Karlaftis, and even if Chris Jones is aging, there's still like 1 or 2 reps per game where he just completely dominates. He's still good.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that defensive line feels transformed.
And he can win fast. Like just because you don't have the sort of quick twitch burst that a guy like David Bailey has off the line, or even an Arvell Reese, it doesn't mean you can't win instantly. Like he's got crazy power, he's got that bend to get around the corner. Like Bane can win quickly. It's just different than the other guys.
And to discuss the Saints at 8, David Bailey for Daniel Jeremiah, Carnell Tate for Kiper.
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled if I'm the Saints in either case.
Yeah, I mean, David Bailey, that feels like his sort of floor is getting to those teams at the bottom of the top 10 where, even the teams that might care about his deficiencies, his relative run defense compared to the guy like Bane, like at this point, who cares, Yeah, even if he's worst case scenario, it's still fine at this spot.
I haven't seen Bailey go that low. Again, you don't have agility numbers for him. I know there are questions about his change of direction, but I just think the burst off the edge, and I think he's good enough against the run. He's not as good as some of the others. I think he's good enough. I'm thrilled with him at 8. If I'm the Saints, and here's the other part too when we go back to 4 in the Titans discussion here with Jeremiah Love. Early in this process, we were like, oh, Jeremiah Love, the Saints, running back questions before they signed Etienne. The Saints were like this common Jeremiah Love landing spot. If I'm the Saints, I'm thrilled walking away with Carnell Tate or David Bailey in either of these cases. Positions of need, players that I'd be happy taking in the top 5 or 6 that fall to 8. I think these are both good scenarios for the Saints. And then speaking of good scenarios, the Bengals at 10. And I know defensive line is not just – I mean, it's as big of a need as anything else that the Bengals have, but also it's just where the impact is. But even though corner on paper isn't necessarily a need, we talked about how much we love Mansour Delane in our profile on him. They've been linked to Caleb Downs. Like, hey, if Downs is there at 10, you got to take him. So DJ has Downs going to the Bengals. Kiper has Delane going to the Bengals. Again, pretty happy with either one. enhancing that secondary.
Yeah, and in this, I mean, between these two drafts, Delane goes 10 and 11 between the two of them. It's not a stretch to get him up to 8 in a draft to say the Saints could like him that much. It's only jumping a couple of spots from where his sort of consensus is.
Yeah, I think as a Bengals fan, I think a Bengals fan would most want an impact defensive lineman. Again, they tried Shamar Stewart last year. They tried Miles Murphy a couple of years ago, but it's still not locked in, right? They would want an interior pass rusher, which probably isn't value at 10, or they would want Bailey or Bain. They want one of those guys to fall, I believe. This is a good fallback plan, though. Either the best safety in the draft in Caleb Downs, or who we think is the best corner in the draft in Mansour Delane. I think Cincinnati, they could be in a tricky spot because for me, they would need some of the players that I don't love, the Freeling, or I just don't want. They just need Love to go in the top 10 to somebody, a Freeling to come, somebody that they're not going to take, and then they'll get one of these impact defensive players. So I think they end up in a pretty good spot here in both of the drafts.
Yep.
All right, let's go picks 11 through 15 here.
Before we do that, let's take a break for some breaking news. According to Adam Schefter, ESPN sources, Offensive Player of the Year and Super Bowl champion Jackson Smith-Njigba reached an agreement with the Seattle Seahawks on a 4-year, $168.6 million contract extension that now makes him the highest-paid wide receiver in NFL history. The deal averages $42.15 million per year and includes over $120 million guaranteed, both setting records for any wide receiver.
Wow.
And then the deal was confirmed by some agency.
Well, good for them. Wow.
So
42. So that AAV, 42, that's a couple million above where Jamar Chase is at 40.
The average per year jumps the Jamar Chase number by a couple million, and the guaranteed money jumps anybody by like 10 million.
Wow. And Justin Jefferson's at 35.
Right. And that now
CeeDee Lamb's at 34.
That now sets a new benchmark for the Rams and Puka Nacua, which is presumably a year behind this. So that number is going to go to the moon as well.
I mean, we could diverge on this for a second. It is funny how quickly this has gone. And this was something back when we were at PFF and we were studying this a little bit more. We were like, receivers are kind of undervalued around the NFL. And you always got tackle, edge rusher, as far as non-QB positions that are most valuable. And we got to a point where we're like, actually, receiver, if you have an impact receiver, that's the guy. This is why we had this Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell discussion, and it wasn't wild to take Jamar Chase. The point I always made in that discussion was that 10 years prior, like in 2010 or 11, tackle, no doubt, goes above the receiver. Now, there were various times, Calvin Johnson went high. Like there were blue chip receivers did go high in the draft. But the choice between tackle and receiver used to be, okay, you got to get the big guys. You can't get those guys later. And there's still some truth in that. But when you have the impact receiver, they make a big impact, especially the way JSN played last year, man. I was a huge JSN fan coming out, and even I could not predict because I thought he would be this uber possession. He's going to get open, great receiver. He was making a Tyreek Hill-like impact, and I think Tyreek Hill is the most impactful receiver of the last 10 to 15 years. He was making that kind of impact down the field, and that's why he's making over $42 million. So I'm also not far removed from being on a panel at Sloan with Kevin Demoff, the Rams president, saying, hey, isn't receiver more valuable than ever and this and that? And he's like, no, he's not. It's not. I'm like, you were just coming off a Super Bowl with Cooper Kupp having one of the best receiver seasons of all time. The actual on-field impact of the receiver, I think, has been more than what the money has said in previous years, and now it's starting to catch up. And now we're also at this point where Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra all feel like absolute bargains because their number starts with a 3 and it's only in the 30s, not the 40s.
Well, that's the thing. It's how fast this number has jumped. Like we're only a couple of years removed from $30 million a year sounding crazy for a wide receiver, right? And then in basically 2 contracts, it jumped $5 million to Justin Jefferson, and that's reasonable in terms of like Jefferson has various records of like the most productive wide receiver over the first 4 or 5 years in NFL history. So yeah, of course his number was going to jump relative to just like any random number one, high-end wide receiver to sign a deal. So we jumped $5 million to Jefferson's number. We jumped another $5 million to Jamar Chase's number, even though actually, they're comparable. So Jefferson jumping 5 made some sense. Jumping 5 again to Jamar Chase made less sense because there's less of a differentiation between those two guys. And then we've jumped another $2 million to JSN off the back of that. And actually the bigger jump there appears to be on the guaranteed number. So in basically 2-3 contracts, we've jumped 10 or 12 and a half million a year in average per season. And then massively, even more than that in the guaranteed money, off the charts, that's jumped. That's gone. I mean, what would be the biggest contract? What's the sort of 30 million a year? Brandon Ayuk signed for 30 million a year average with just $76 million guaranteed. So this is 50 million more in guaranteed money.
Wow. Monster deal for JSN and the Seahawks. Yep, you're up, Rams. Puka Nacua.
Yeah. So another year. I mean, that number is going to be.
He's going to get $1 more than JSN or something.
Well, because there's another year involved, his target should be 45 million a year. Now I don't know if they get 40, but that should be based off this contract and another year.
Yeah.
He should be saying, I 45 million a year.
I like it. Do it. Let's get back to the dueling mock drafts. Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah. Picks 11 through 15. Let's start with Mel here. So this is where some changes were made because of the trade. Miami Dolphins, Jordan Tyson. What are you telling me here? Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State, goes to Miami for Mel. Dallas Cowboys have Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee. Rams go Francis Mauigoa, the offensive tackle out of Miami. The Ravens take Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah, maybe moving him to guard in this scenario. And then the Tampa Bay Bucks go Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. Daniel Jeremiah has at 11, Dolphins go Mansour Delane out of LSU, the cornerback. Cowboys also have Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. Rams go Mekhi Lemon, speaking of receivers to the Rams, the USC receiver. Ravens go Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. And then the Bucks go Akeem Mesidor, the old man, edge rusher, to Miami edge rusher going to Tampa Bay. Start at 11 here. The Miami thing, post-trade here, after they traded Jalen Waddle, I think Mel came back in and said, give him Jordan Tyson. Let's go receiver here.
Yeah, so
he originally had Francis Mauigoa.
Couple of interesting things so far from these mocks. Number one, Spencer Fano appears to be, at least according to these two, significantly higher than people had him recently.
Just to remind, he was – sorry to interrupt again.
I don't know if that's connected to the fact that his arms are back to being tackle length-ish, or because so his arms at the combine measured, was it 32 dead, 32 flat?
32 and a quarter.
32 and a quarter,
yes.
Which is the 33 is the cutoff people want to see for offensive tackles, right? So 32 and a quarter is, well, you're an interior offensive lineman now. And he was taking center snaps like that and working out as an interior offensive lineman. And then at his pro day, he measured 32 and 7/8. So we're still below the threshold, but by 1/8 of an inch. So we're his arms are now, if you take the pro day number, 1/8 of an inch shorter than Rashawn Slater's, right? Who obviously is a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. So all of a sudden he's right back in the offensive tackle mix. Again, he might be a 5-position player. No matter what the position you have open is, Spencer Fano can fill that gap.
Yeah, I think there's an argument for him being the best tackle in the draft. I know Mauigoa goes over him.
Dude, pitch that. That's
Fano?
Yeah. We gotta look. Where's your close up? Look into the camera. Give your 60-second pitch for Spencer Fano being the best offensive tackle.
Spencer Fano's the best offensive tackle in the draft. No, it's got to be a zone-heavy scheme. Moves really well. Doesn't necessarily have the run game power as some others. I think he's smooth in pass protection. He's got more than enough arm. He's technically sound. He's going to continue to get better. The best technical offensive tackle in the draft. So Fano, maybe not a fit for everybody, but I think I trust him as much as anyone else. I do know it. I trust him as much as any other offensive tackle. In pass protection, got beaten one time by Bailey on an inside spin, but Fano's the guy, man. He's the guy. So he's fine.
Nice.
He's close enough to 33.
And to be fair, his consensus position is still, it's like 10 or whatever. He never dropped that far. It's just the arm length things seem to spook people.
I didn't hate him going to Kansas City. Again, like the Kansas City at 9, whoever had DJ had him going to Kansas City at 9. The Chiefs have to take a long-term someone in the trenches in this case. I mean, they don't have to, but the right wide receiver, the right pass rusher, the right tackle. If they're there, that's the guy for the Chiefs. Maybe even more than Caleb Downs at safety, as much as he'd be great with Spags. And so if Fano's there, fine. He's the long-term right tackle. If Bain is there, great. In this case, I mean, Rams, you could say the same thing. They might not have a specific need at tackle because Warren McClendon filled in great for the Rob Havenstein, who's retired. But you don't get to pick in the top 13 that often if you're the Rams, and you just get these players that you can't find elsewhere. These starting tackles.
Yeah.
So I like Fano's fine. Where did we start talking about him?
The fact that the two things to come out of this were Fano being ranked highly in both mocks, and then Jordan Tyson going in this kind of area pretty high as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of was it Dane coming out talking about some of his injury? I mean, we already knew that there was an injury history, but there was more.
He's still dealing with a hamstring that he had something like. He had during the season. Like, this is a long time to still be dragging ass with a hamstring injury.
So remember at this time last year, we were talking Michigan
like 4
corner.
months later.
Yeah. We were talking Michigan corner Will Johnson last year. And in all of our mock draft discussions, he was going top 15, right? Top 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes second round, 45,
right.
Whatever the pick was. Is Jordan Tyson. And this happens often enough. We have rumblings of the medical. We don't have the medical. We don't know enough of the teams in their opinions as far as dropping him. Is Jordan Tyson in danger of late first or into the second now because of medical concerns?
Well, he's got two things working. It's different in that, so you've got this general injury history, which isn't great, but then you've also got this acute thing, which is 4 months later, he's still dealing with a grade 2 hamstring injury. Like, that on its own is pretty worrying. And again, it's like a soft tissue injury that's lingering. Like, that, just by itself, that's a scary thing to be talking about. And then you have, and by the way, he's had some injuries. If you start stacking them up, you start to get a bit of a medical red flag. That's different to we looked at this guy's knee and we don't like the look of it type of deal. So I think medicals could be an issue for him based off that. But obviously in neither case in these mock drafts do they seem to care about that. It's like he's the next best wide receiver off the board, and he's going to go pretty high. Although actually one of them has him third, right? Yeah.
That would so Mel has the Dolphins taking him at 11.
Right.
That would feel really risky for a team who, I don't want to say they need to hit on every pick, but they don't have many players left anymore. They need to. It's not even finding safe picks. They need to eliminate as much risk as possible, though, on all these picks. If you're the Dolphins.
Well, this is why it's risky to trade away. I mean, obviously you shed the contract, and they've got like $180 million in dead cap hit at the moment. The Dolphins, you full rebuild, you press reset. But the risk is you've got to go and find a replacement of some kind for Jalen Waddle. And if you're going to take a guy like Jordan Tyson, do you want that replacement to be the best ceiling we can find, or do you want it to be, I don't care how good this guy is, he just can't be bad. He just has to be an upgrade over the guys that are currently on the depth chart, which looks like one of the worst depth charts of a wide receiver room in NFL history. So that's the difference. And Tyson's, some people out there want to say Jordan Tyson's wide receiver 1 in this draft class. Other people, in DJ's mock, he's the third wide receiver off the board. So it is the takes on wide receiver in this class are a little bit all over the place.
Jamad McCoy at 12 to Dallas, both
consensus.
DJ. That is a very common pick.
Yep.
Remember, he's got his pro day, did not work out at the combine, didn't play at all this season.
And in both cases, it's cornerback 2.
Both cases, it's cornerback 2. His pro day is next Tuesday, my birthday. And so if he passes, runs, ticks that box, if he doesn't, though, is he the Will Johnson that we keep putting him in the top 12? We keep putting him at Dallas at 12, and if the Cowboy doesn't sign off on him, he's not going at 12. And he does, how far does Jamad McCoy?
Yeah, well, there's two questions.
Doctor.
There's if he doesn't run, then the people that were like, oh man, we're 400 days out from his ACL and he still hasn't run, that's a massive red flag. Then they're vindicated now because whatever about the combine, I don't think it means anything at the combine because his pro day's later. Why would you? If he doesn't run at his pro day, well, then you're like, okay, now you do have to answer questions about what you're hiding, right? So there's question one, what if he doesn't run? And then there's question two, what if he runs and he doesn't run the speed people thought he was going to run? What if he runs a high 4, what if he runs a 4.5? Do you care then? So those are the two things that he has to answer at that pro day. If he answers them, fine. If he doesn't, yeah, then you have an interesting question. It also raises, like, is this just because both DJ and Kiper, I think there's a degree of what I'm hearing in these, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we know Dallas likes to fill needs with their draft picks. Is this just we're going top corner on the board, or we're specifically going for Jamad McCoy? Like, in neither case do they have to answer the question of what happens if Mansour Delane's on the board. If Delane was on the board, would they take him, or are they still locked in on McCoy?
I have a feeling they take Delane if he's there.
I would assume
McCoy
so, but
is always
knows?
left. Right. And Avion Terrell, he's a little bit smaller. He's probably not he's not as highly thought of as the top two. Again, those draft profiles are coming up on the channel as well. He's going closer to the 20s, so I think it's just the next corner on the board that they keep putting to Dallas. A reminder that the Cowboys have 2 first-rounders and no pick until 94, like right on the fringe of the 4th round. So if they're going to fill their corner and linebacker needs, it's probably happening in the first round here. Mm-hmm. That's another one, while we're talking about that. Old draft narratives that we should revisit. All of the players with injury concerns. How many of the, like Jeffrey Simmons, right? Those would be fun to go back through and say these players either fell because of injury. Jonathan Allen had like a chronic shoulder, supposedly, before the 2017 draft. Jeffrey Simmons was coming off an ACL in the 2019 draft. There's going to be others. We should dig those up and say, what was the result here? Laiatu Latu had serious injury concerns. The biggest one was probably Caleb Farley at corner, where he had chronic back problems. And I forget which company it was that put like, green, yellow, red injury concern on the like. This was like the reddest of red injury concern, and it proved true for the Tennessee Titans.
Although immediately, like it wasn't the bank injury that did him in. Like immediately he tore his ACL or whatever.
Yeah,
and, like he had other he became. I guess generally he was an injury problem, but it wasn't the specific acute question that people had on him that was the thing. Like I don't think the back injury had really anything to do with his NFL career. It's just that from day one he was injured.
I think that'll be a fun one to revisit, though, to go back through.
What's his name? Marcus McNeil, the all tackle for the Chargers. He was one of these guys.
Going way back.
Well, he was one of these guys who supposedly had some like chronic back injury that was going to be the thing that shut him down for his NFL career. I think it did. It just took 9 years or whatever to do it. Like he was a really good player right up until the back injury was like, all right, no mas, you're done. It's like, well, that's still a good draft pick then, right?
Jalen Phillips. Him and Latu both had like prior retirements because of injuries, and then they came back, and that'll be fun to revisit and then apply it to Jamad McCoy and maybe even Jordan Tyson in this draft. Like, how much should we care about those things? All right, where are we? Pick 13.
The Rams, they both went. So obviously the Rams picking 13, despite being a legit Super Bowl contending team. What do they do with that unexpected bounty from the trade a year ago with the Falcons? In one case, we get Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver, and in the other case, Francis Maui Noah, which is, I would imagine they'd be pretty. I mean, okay, does that fit an acute need given Warren McClendon looked pretty good? Number one, he's only under contract for another year. Number two, Francis Maui Noah would fit the ticket of like theoretical blue chip player from this draft that you're not usually expected to have an opportunity to get.
Oh yeah, I'm good with either one for the Rams. I think getting the next receiver in the future, Mekhi Lemon on that team next to Puka Nacua, I think there's some redundancy in style, but again, they make those things work. Yeah. They can make that work perfectly fine. Or Maui Noah, future right tackle, could play guard, just the flexibility that you have in the offensive line. When we mentioned Rams needs, it's not starter for this year necessarily, but they're going to have to either pay a bunch of these linemen in the coming season or upgrade. And Maui Noah could absolutely be an upgrade at right tackle over McClendon. who's just got a small sample size of pretty good play as a backup. So offensive line, I think, would be
or if
an unsexy but like astute pick here for the Rams if they stay at 13.
Or if Renner's right, you can kick him into guard.
Yeah.
He immediately he gives you the ability to move on from one of two different offensive linemen, either now or in the future in a year's time when you have the succession plan in place. And also, like, he's 5 on the consensus board. To get him at 13 is just value, if nothing else. Like, independent of the smartness of future-proofing the offensive line and all those kinds of things. Just the value of getting him at 13 would feel awesome for them.
How about the Ravens going either Fano, which I think is fine. My question there is, like, he shouldn't be a guard just because of arm length. He's not really a power player. Like, again, I think a zone-heavy scheme he could fit.
Yeah.
But there's no starting tackle spot there for the Ravens. So the assumption is he would play guard. Mel mentions the arm length, so he didn't get the pro day numbers yet when he put this out there. DJ's got Jordan Tyson.
It's still a thing though. Like, he's still below the Rashawn, or not
the 33, the cutoff.
Yeah, the Rashawn Slater's 33 cutoff.
33-inch arms. And then Jordan Tyson for the Ravens. How many first-round wide receivers have the Ravens taken in recent years between, say, Flowers, Rashad Bateman? It's not. I wouldn't say it's a glaring need. I think Flowers is fine and Bateman's fine.
It's the same need that they've had the whole way. Like, they're the team that's looking for that, impact number one outside threat. They've got, and they every now and again Rashad Bateman stays healthy for a run and plays his best football, and it's like, wow, it really does make a difference when they have that guy. And then but that's the guy they still need. It's not that they need just generic general wide receiver. They need that specific difference maker.
And then the Bucs, Kenyon Sadiq at tight end or Hakeem Mesidor on the edge.
Yeah.
Edge is a big need. And then Sadiq at tight end, they did bring back Cade Otton. He would be a nice complement. So it's not as much of a need as it was at the beginning of free agency where they didn't re-sign Otton, but he is a nice complement to what Otton brings to the table. Otton.
Yeah. Fano would be fascinating for Baltimore because, remember, they've changed their offensive line coach. They're probably going to be going with a completely different scheme up front, blocking-wise. And actually, Spencer Fano, I think, is a far better fit for this one than he even
he fits Ledford.
On the inside, right, than he would be in the previous scheme. So that would be an interesting test of that whole dynamic now of the new coaching staff there. Tyson is an interesting fit for them because on the one hand, he gets really easy elite separation, which is good for an outside wide receiver. On the other hand, the biggest concern I have for him is occasionally getting bodied by just coverage. And again, like just physical coverage during the routes, the stuff that elite number one outside receiver needs to be able to do at a high level. So that I would be concerned that he's going to be another Rashad Bateman where it's like theoretically you can do that, but all the time, not really. That would worry me a bit. So, it's an interesting either or for them. And then the Bucs, Sadiq, I think it's not a glaring need, but it would be a really nice fit for them in that offense.
I would love to see that. If you had Sadiq with what they have playmaker-wise, that's not a Mike Evans replacement necessarily, but with Ibuka, Jalen McMillan, Tez Johnson, Chris Godwin still there, add Sadiq to that mix, plus put him in the backfield. I'll get Zach to put him in the backfield for us.
Well, that would be perfect because you'd actually be able to direct line to making that pitch. Any other, coach, you're going to struggle to try and get them to do that.
It's going to become a Dolphin
Zach, you could just text him. Be like, hey, I got this great idea. It's going to sound crazy, but, do it.
I think he already thinks I'm crazy.
I'm sure. That's why.
For requesting it.
Doesn't matter.
All right, if you ever wanted to go to the NBA Finals, well, now's your chance, courtesy of FanDuel. All you have to do is use your profit boost on an NBA future, and you'll be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. NBA Futures lets you lock in your pick for who you think will go all the way, whether it's a team to win the championship or a conference title. Visit FanDuel.com/33rd to get started. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. I think Harry's got the Celtics in the Finals, so you maybe go to Boston with Tatum coming back off the injury. I'll get Harry's breakdown. NBA expert in my family. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. No purchase necessary. Limit 1 entry. For Profit Boost token, opt-in required. Must apply. Profit Boost token on select market. Restrictions apply. See full terms, including methods of entry at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NY in New York, or text HOPE-NY in New York. That's 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, picks 16 through 20. Do we have that up there for a graphic? Where's Mel? Mel has the New York Jets. Here we go. Ty Simpson, Alabama quarterback for Mel.
Oh, boy.
Detroit Lions have Caden Proctor, offensive tackle for the Detroit Lions. Did I say Lions? Minnesota Vikings for both Dylan Thieneman. This is the other chalky pick here.
Yeah, it
Minnesota
really
Vikings taking the safety out of Oregon. At 19, the Carolina Panthers taking Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety out of Toledo. And then the Dallas Cowboys taking a linebacker, C.J. Allen, out of Georgia. Daniel Jeremiah has Omar Cooper Jr. going at 16 to the New York Jets. That's the highest, besides what Marcus brought to the table last week, highest we've seen Omar Cooper in big draft. Monroe Freeling is the pick at 17 to the Detroit Lions. Thieneman at 18 to the Vikings. 19, Carolina Panthers taking Casey Concepcion, wide receiver. And T.J. Parker is the pick at 20 for the Dallas Cowboys, the edge rusher out of Clemson.
Now it's getting spicy in both drafts.
They're diverging. Last year, we accused one or the other of plagiarism.
Sure.
There's very little plagiarism here. It's like they're the same with Jeremiah Love, the same with Jamad McCoy, the same with Dylan Thieneman. Those are pretty classic picks across a lot of mock drafts right now.
So, we're not just diverging, but we're getting some spicy, unusual draft picks from both mocks as well. So you've got a bunch of picks that are like the consensus chalk. This is since the combine, this has basically been locked in for everybody. And then you're also getting ones where we haven't seen them at all. Like, I haven't seen KC Concepcion to the Carolina Panthers anywhere before. I'm sure there's mock drafts out there somewhere that have it, but like, that's an unusual draft pick relative to the consensus stuff. Caden Proctor to Detroit feels pretty unusual. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren to the Panthers feels unusual. C.J. Allen, this high, has been unusual relative to recent mocks and stuff. So, it's getting hot in either mock draft.
All right, let's talk Jets at 16, taking Ty Simpson, and what the thought process could be here. Darren Muji, second-year GM. He also has former Sumer Sports, and their lead analytics guy is Sean Clement. Mm-hmm. Got some former PFFers in there and everything. They've got people, right? Analytically sound people.
They've got people
for the Jets. And one of the things that we used to always discuss is if you need a quarterback, you take swings, and you're not afraid if you take a swing in 1 year to take a swing the next year. And they've got the 3 first-round picks next year. So is this a case where the Jets could say, hey, we don't have a quarterback. Let's take a shot on Ty Simpson at 16. We already have a pick at 2, right, with 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years. What if we use 2 out of those 5 on a quarterback?
Yeah.
And then if Simpson's great, it's only 1 out of 5, right? We'll take this pick this year, see what we have in Ty Simpson, and best case scenario is he's the guy. He's awesome. Next year we go in with 3 first-round picks and we don't need a quarterback. The worst case scenario here is we don't either know enough about Simpson or we're a little underwhelmed with Simpson. Maybe we wasted pick 16, but we still have 3 picks next year. And if he's not good, we'll be in position for one of those top quarterbacks. And the only thing that we wasted was maybe we could have had another pass rusher or another receiver, right? We lose out on a starter by taking a swing on a Ty Simpson at 16. Is that a potential thought process here for the Jets?
So the problem I would have with this draft pick is I don't have a problem with looking at Ty Simpson and saying, I think that there is a good NFL quarterback in this guy somewhere. Like, I think in his future is being a good NFL quarterback, and therefore that's absolutely worth the 16th overall pick in a draft, particularly for a team that has a bunch of draft capital to spend and is, rebuilding anyway and doesn't have a long-term solution, blah, blah, blah. All fine and good. The problem is, I think if you're taking him at 16, I think he needs to sit. And as he's sitting, I think part of that, like you don't play year one, and part of that is we're going to rework your mechanics to get your accuracy better. Because right now, one of his biggest problems is his accuracy is garbage.
I mean, it definitely waned when he got hurt.
Even before that, though, it's not good. Like I mean, look, the problem is you're dealing with 15 career starts, so it's like 15 career starts, and some of them were injured. It's anything you're talking about is a small sample size. But like there's a lot of similarities to J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion, to his overall tape discussion, prospect profile, et cetera, et cetera. Like we're dealing with a really small sample size. He's also very inaccurate in broad terms. Like the overall baseline is not high for a lot of this stuff. So if I'm taking Ty Simpson, I'm like, look, I don't want to have to play him at all year one. I'm going to spend time working on his mechanics and get him like 100% set in that area. And then year two is when I'm going to find out what I have. Problem with that for the Jets is we can't do that because then you get to he doesn't play this year. The team stinks generally because there's probably not enough talent there. We're going to have a top 10 draft pick with 3 first-round draft picks. We're going to be perfectly positioned to go get the quarterback of the future. Meanwhile, you've got a first-round draft pick that hasn't played football waiting in the wings. You can't let that guy stop you taking, a consensus elite prospect next year. But then did you just burn the 16th overall pick on a guy who may never see the field ever? Or just a backup? Is that like, and you don't even know if your backup is any good? It doesn't make any sense in those terms. So if you take him at 16, you have to play him. And I think that probably doesn't do him any good. So it's almost like the Dolphins with Malik Willis. And this is where you get into this. Philosophically, should an NFL team actually give a crap if they're screwing a player? Right? Because it's
not about screwing the player. It's screwing, but it's about your evaluation of the player.
No, because from the Jets' point of view, you are not giving Ty Simpson the best chance of success by taking him at 16 and playing him year one, in my opinion. And I think the Dolphins are not giving Malik Willis the best opportunity for success to sign him, trade away his only good wide receiver, and then say good luck, right? On the other hand, they don't really care. Because if it doesn't work out, it's no harm, no foul, because the Jets are going to pivot to a quarterback next year, which is theoretically better anyway, and the Dolphins are rebuilding anyway. They're probably going to go find a new quarterback as well, and all it cost them was 1.5 years worth of money. So from their perspective, it's worth the roll of the dice, because if you hit on a guy, it's a good problem to have, right? Everything changes. If Malik Willis is somehow able to overcome this joke of an offensive roster around him, well, then it's great. Now we take all the draft capital and we go spend elsewhere, and awesome, right? If Ty Simpson it just hits, right, you spend the 16th overall pick on him, and it turns out he's Russell Wilson from day one, well, then gravy. Now we take our 3 first-round picks next year, we go build around Ty Simpson, and all is good. And if he doesn't, we've got the 3 first-round picks to go. So my point is, the team doesn't really care if you're decreasing the chance of this guy hitting because you're baking in the long shot. Like the downside to it is minimal, but the upside is huge. So but you are making it less likely that it hits by doing that. Again, in my opinion, with Simpson, because I think he needs to sit. And in Malik Willis's case, certainly, because you just traded away his only talent.
I mean, your original point, doesn't matter if they screw over the player, like put him into a bad situation. No, I don't think that matters for the organization. The goal, though, for the organization is you want to know as quickly as possible what you have in a quarterback so you can make a call. Stick or move, right?
With the goal,
stick with him or get somebody new.
The goal is to find a quarterback.
Yes, that's all that the Jets should care about. That's all that the Dolphins should care about. And
but equally,
putting them out there with a poor roster hurts your ability to evaluate that, then that's an issue because you need to be able to properly evaluate that.
But equally, you can't as an organization be known as an organization that's going to screw players. Like there has to be something to that.
People don't see it like that.
I don't think. Of course they do. The players are going to see that.
I think that's ridiculous.
I don't know.
To say that like the Jets draft Ty Simpson, because those are different conversations. No one's going to say that the Jets drafted Ty Simpson and he played football. Therefore, the Jets aren't doing a solid for this quarterback. They are. They're actually letting the dude play.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily good if he shouldn't.
And drafting him at 16 and paying him a lot of money, more money than you make in the second round, where he's probably going to go.
I'm saying generally, you can't just say it doesn't matter at all that if an organization goes out there and basically screws a player because it doesn't make any difference to them. That has no ramifications whatsoever. I'm not saying.
I think we think way more deeply about this than the average public. That no one's going to be like, man, they really screwed Ty Simpson by drafting him at 16 and letting him start.
It's not about the public. It's about players. And I'm not saying.
I don't think players would see that either. No one's going to be like, man, you took a guy that should be going in round 2. You took him in round 1, and you put him out there with actually a good offensive line and Garrett Wilson and some other. They were lacking some other playmakers, and you're really, really screwing him over.
I'm not saying that this particular instance would be a case of that, but I'm saying you can't say that has no impact whatsoever. For example, the Malik Willis thing, if they did not tell him that they were planning on trading away Jalen Waddle,
that's a closer one. Yeah,
signed Malik Willis to this big money deal, then traded away his only good player, and then we're just like, have fun.
That's a closer one. Yeah.
That would be screwing Malik Willis, and if they did not inform him of that to begin with, I think that could absolutely impact their ability to sign free agents in the future. Because a free agent is like, I have a choice between 2 teams, one of which might actively screw me within 6 months, and the other of which won't. I'm going to go with the team that probably won't screw me. This one would be different. The only way it would be actively screwing him is if they informed him all the way along that, hey, we love you. We think you need to sit for a year. And then it's like week 3, Geno played like crap. Sorry, out you go, Ty. Give it your best shot, even though we've told you you're not ready. That would be bad. But if they just draft him at 16 and throw him in there from week 1,
no, that's fine.
That's not screwing him. That's just probably not giving him a great chance to succeed.
All right, back to the original point, because I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. I would rather the Jets don't take Ty Simpson at 16 and let it play out. And if he's there, because the Jets also have 33 and 44. If he's there at 33 or 44, I'd be much happier taking Ty Simpson if I'm the Jets.
Sure.
And if he's not there, great. We'll play this game next year. At quarterback, we already have Geno Smith. There are 2 examples that come to mind. It's the Jets in 2013. Process over results here, Sam. In 2013, the Jets they had pick 9 and 13, and they took D. Milner, the corner, Sheldon Richardson, defensive tackle, and then they had pick 39, and that's when they took Geno Smith in 2013. They got him in the second round. Geno Smith, who was a potential first-round pick, thought that was a great move at the time to get the 2 players at 9 and 13. Forget the results for a minute, process-wise, good. And, Geno didn't work out with the Jets. Give you another one that didn't work out, but I thought was good process. Cleveland Browns in 2017. Nothing the Browns have ever done in 2000 in that range was good. But they had 3 first-round picks, and they took Myles Garrett, Jabril Peppers, David Njoku with their 3 first-rounders. And then they got Deshaun Kaiser in the second. I think he was the 4th QB off the board at that time. Process over results here, Sam. Kaiser was not good, but he was the consensus QB4 in that draft. You already had 3 first-rounders. Why not take a shot at quarterback? It didn't work out. You move on. Fine. I would rather the Jets do something like that and say we've got 3 firsts next year, 2 firsts this year, at 33 or 44 with the 2 2s. Spend one of those on Ty Simpson if he's available. That's your swing. If he doesn't work out, boom, you're coming back with a QB next year. Process over results, people. Whether Kaiser worked out, whether Geno worked out with the Jets, the whole point is the base rate is like 8 to 10% that this thing's going to work out. So you got to take some swings. I'm good with the Jets taking a swing in round 2 at quarterback here.
I mean, I think you can make the argument it's fine at 16 if they think that he's capable of starting right away, and they just decide. Like on the one hand, he does read the field well. He is aggressive. Like he's got NFL level aggression in terms of, this is a pretty tight window over the middle on my second read. I'm going to fire it in there anyway. So like there are NFL things on his tape that you definitely have to like. The problem is I think his accuracy is marginal. He's undersized relative to what you would like, and I don't mean he's 5'8" or whatever.
He's not Bryce.
He's skinny. Like he's 6'1", 211 or something. Like he's
Kirk Cousins size.
Not even. Like Kirk Cousins is like 6'2", 215. Anyway, he's like marginal NFL sized. The arm is there, the aggression is there, the reading of the field is there, but I think he would really benefit from sitting for an entire year, and that does the Jets no good whatsoever. If they're taking him at 16, he's playing in October.
Yeah, I don't want a guy that's going to sit. Right. Now, they might not think he needs to sit, but
that's
they
what I'm saying.
Might think he needs experience.
If they think there's a decent chance that he could be good if he plays, if he starts from October onwards and we get, 3 months to figure out if he's the guy or not. If he is, great. If he's not, no harm. We've got 3 first-round picks next year. It's okay. I just don't think there's a great chance. I would obviously prefer that in the second round. Like, to me, he's a second-round prospect if such thing existed anymore, really, and they kind of don't. I mean, I know Tyler Shuck. Generally speaking, those second-round quarterbacks have kind of died off. Those guys tend to get taken in the first round.
All right, good discussion on Ty Simpson. The Jets taking Simpson at 16 in Mel Kiper's mock here. Caden Proctor. So the Lions, here's an interesting one. In both mocks, the Lions take a tackle.
Yep.
One's Caden Proctor, one's Monroe Freeling. Freeling goes way higher in was it DJ's mock?
Kiper's. Right?
DJ's got sorry. Doesn't make any sense. Whatever I was thinking. Obviously, Freeling goes higher in Mel Kiper's mock, so he's available in DJ's mock. But Freeling, who I see as more developmental but good size, feels better at 17 than the top 10 for me. And then Proctor, who I think a lot of us maybe have forgotten about a little bit. It's almost like when your example of the quarterback thing, when we're sitting there at the Super Bowl and you see there's Ryan Leaf and we've run into Boomer Esiason and you see these monster quarterbacks. Caden Proctor has the tackle equivalent of that at 6'7", 352. When you're comparing him to like Spencer Fano and we're talking, is his arm big enough? And it's like somebody's going to look at Proctor and even Freeling and be like, this is what they look like. These guys got to go. So maybe we've dropped Proctor too low in mock draft expectations, given he's 6'7", 352, moves well enough and improved throughout last season. But him going to the Lions at 17, which I think is interesting because he could play tackle, or I think he's got the skill set to maybe play guard as a monster guard as well if needed.
Yeah, interesting that both mocks have them taking a tackle, like just filling that Taylor Decker gap on the offensive line with that spot. It's a need. I don't know if they anticipated that necessarily being the need that they would have to fill, and maybe they are going to have to go, let's just fill the most glaring acute need we have.
The 2 Panthers picks are fascinating because when we went down the needs on the needs show, QB aside, whatever you think of Bryce Young, the Panthers are in a much better spot. When we went through this, their starting 22 is in a much better spot than it was, say, 2 years ago. I don't know if the depth is there yet. I don't know if they're fully there yet. But it's such that when you're going through your mock drafts, it's like, let's fit the need. Let's fit the need in the pick. It's like, could they use another edge? Right? They've done a lot on the edge. Could they use a linebacker? Sure, but they did add Devin Lloyd. Could they use a receiver? I don't know, because they've got Jalen Coker and Tedero and McMillan. And so Mel goes Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here, and Daniel Jeremiah goes receiver in Casey Concepcion, who does, by the way, bring something a little bit different as far as his speed and would be a nice complement to Jalen Coker and Tedero and McMillan. So 2, I guess, perceived non-need picks here for the Panthers, which I think speaks more to their starting 22 roster strength than anything else.
Yeah, the McNeil-Warren pick is just, that makes sense. It's fine. The Concepcion one is the one that I'm really interested in because that's, A, it's higher than he's been going pretty much everywhere, and B, it's a nice fit within that offense, and it brings this sort of interesting conversation of like, well, how high do you draft a complementary receiver relative to a starter at a different position? Like, obviously, Tedero and McMillan is their number one, their star. Jalen Coker is probably like Concepcion is like a complementary 3 in this offense. Like, Coker is probably the clear number 2, and then Concepcion effectively replaces Xavier Leggett within the offense as the third receiver, different type of player, and maybe they coexist as 3 and 4, but like that's basically what he likely comes to with this offense. I love the fit. I think he's a really nice complement to those guys, and he can potentially he sort of brings. I think he jumps Leggett on the depth chart, but brings what Jimmy Horn Jr. was doing last year. Like he's sort of that version of player, but within the Leggett playing time role.
And then just to finish this up to pick 20 here, Dallas, T.J. Parker for Daniel Jeremiah, and then C.J. Allen, the other. This is as chalk as it goes, I think, for the Cowboys, just taken for Mel. Jermod McCoy at corner, and then C.J. Allen at linebacker. Just any linebacker who's available. It's usually Allen. he just made waves by, working out at Pro Day and flipping his hips with some stiffness. Most people evaluated for Allen. And that would be one of the questions for him is the coverage ability for Allen, who's a very good run defender. Do you want to take that at 20 if you're Dallas? But we keep coming back to like, hey, they feel their needs. They could use a thumper at linebacker, and maybe they could deal with that with DeMarvion Overshown as more of the athletic complement next to him. I'm always intrigued by Parker, especially in this range, and feel like he's going to be value for somebody in the 20 to 40 range whenever he ends up coming off the board. So a lot of pressure on Dallas here if they do need to fill a need because they're not picking again until 94.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if they have another spot that they want to get done, it's got to happen here. And so you're sort of left wondering what would Dallas see as their second most acute need. I think the first one is obvious. They need that corner, but would they see the defensive line or edge rusher as a need, given Azaraku from a year ago, the trade they made for Rashawn Gary, and then the depth pieces they have behind that? Defensive tackle is in good spot in terms of starters, even trading away Odigizua. So I don't know that they would see the defensive line as the next need that they would need to fill. Linebacker makes more sense there, or would they look at a different spot entirely?
All right, let's go picks 21 through 25 here. We're going through Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah's mock drafts. They both dropped last week. Dueling mock drafts here. Mel Kiper, he's got the Steelers at 21 taking Venga Ioane, the offensive guard, left guard for the out of Penn State. So Steelers get Ioane. Right in front of the Chargers, who probably want him or might want him, just like happened in our mock draft last week. So the Chargers go Peter Woods, Clemson defensive tackle. Philadelphia Eagles would go Max
Ihanicher.
I mess it up every single day. I keep wanting to go with my original. Ihanicher for the Eagles. Cleveland Browns come back with wide receiver Mekhi Lemon at 24, and the Chicago Bears go defensive end Zion Young out of Missouri at pick 25. For DJ, he goes offensive line for the Steelers as well, but he goes tackle Blake Miller. Then he has the Chargers taking Venga Ioane. I feel like he did that on purpose because he likes you fit Ioane in there. He made sure. Fit him in there with the Chargers, a common pick there. Caden Proctor goes to the Eagles at 23 for DJ. Caleb Lomu comes off the board, so there's your tackle for the Browns at 24. So they both flipped. They went tackle receiver, receiver tackle. And then Emmanuel McNeil-Warren comes off the board for the Bears at safety. I haven't seen that one yet, but that's starting to make some sense to me.
Yeah.
With the Bears' safety need with Jaquan Brisker leaving town there. What are your thoughts? Start with the Steelers, both taking offensive linemen there. In one case, Ty Simpson is off the board and not in play. In the other case, he is on the board, and they go offensive lineman instead.
Well, that's as high, I think, as I've seen Blake Miller go in a draft as well. So
it is, yeah.
That's notable for them, particularly. I mean, look, I think they do need a tackle.
That's him going ahead of Proctor as well for DJ. He's going ahead of Caden Proctor, who goes at 23.
Yeah. So it's like it's the Broderick Jones pick, right? It's like that's been a disaster. We need a tackle. Fautano's good. He could play, either side theoretically. We're taking Blake Miller to get Broderick Jones out of the lineup and upgrade a tackle.
So that's an interesting one for Pittsburgh, going offensive line there in both spots. For the Chargers, Ioane at 22. Again, that's been very common.
Well, it's like best case scenario for the Chargers in one and almost worst case scenario for them in the other.
I will say this, and I don't know if he'd be available
Not
there.
that Peter Woods is the worst case scenario, but Ioane getting sniped one pick before is the worst case scenario.
I'm seeing more hype for the second consensus guard, Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. And I think I'd rather have him in the second round than Ioane in the first at this point. Now, I don't know if he'd be available for the Chargers in the second round anyway, but that's where I am at the moment. Ioane's got great power. I think Pregnon, a little better athlete, moves a little bit better. It'd be an interesting one. Interesting debate there. But I think the Chargers would be happy with the plug and play. It would be very much like the Donovan Jackson pick for the Vikings last year. I think it was at 23 or 24, right? Plug and play guard and just move on. And go from there. If the Chargers have to go Peter Woods, I don't hate that either, by the way. Interior pass rush help, they've needed that for a while.
No, yeah, like I say, it's not that Peter Woods is the worst case scenario. It's that they would still have that glaring need at offensive guard, and it's fine to then, like if they did get Pregnon in the second round, that's cool. But Like the further into the draft you need to go and still hit your most glaring need, the less comfortable you can feel about that.
I do wonder if the Chargers have a post-draft plan because they've been so conscientious of not losing future comp picks and everything. And if you sign players post-draft, think James Bradbury got released by the Giants. The Eagles pick him up, becomes a great starter for them for a couple of years. They don't lose any potential comp picks in the future. I do wonder if the Chargers have a guard plan where they don't actually have to squeeze the need in just, in the first round here.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple ways to keep filling these needs, but the deeper into the process you get without having done it, the harder it becomes and the tighter your window for actually hitting that is. It's just, you can still do it, but it becomes a riskier and riskier strategy the longer it goes, and this is a team, look at what happened to them last year, right? Like, you would have thought, like the Bears, as soon as they hired Ben Johnson, it's like the first thing we're doing is fixing this offensive line. We're going to throw everything we have at it because there's no way that this line can exist the way it's been before. When the Chiefs got dismantled in the Super Bowl, it's like we are going hard after this offensive line, and we're going to make sure it doesn't happen. The Chargers were in a similar spot coming out of that season, you would assume, and just take a center pre-free agency and then tinker around the edges with guards. It's like, all right, I mean, that's not the same level of fervor that these other teams had in fixing the offensive line. You can still do it, but it sort of feels like you're trying to, like it's when the Raiders signed Tyler Linderbaum, right? It's like that's the kind of move where it might not be optimal on a spreadsheet, but you had a big enough problem that you just go and make it happen. Like, it's more important to get the guy than it is to get to optimize the dollar figure you're giving up. Like, for the Chargers, it's more important to have a guard in situ that you're comfortable with than it is to optimize the expenditure on the player.
We could copy and paste last year's discussion that you pushed forever. The chalkiest first-round pick last year was Gray Zabel to the Seahawks. And every time you draft a first-round guard, you win a Super Bowl. That's what in the last year.
For John Schneider.
Copycat league. No, but really, last year at this time, you were like, remember the discussion. John Schneider, he never drafts guards in the first round. It's not maximizing value. He plays positional value. He does all these things.
Still be true.
Right. But
it's like
you said break the trend, right? Break it, John. Change this year. Take Gray Zabel. And we're like, is he really going to do it? And then he did it.
It's like all of that may still be true. Like, Schneider's philosophy on interior offensive linemen may be entirely legit, but at some point the problem is more important than optimizing every last percentage point at every possible move you're making. I feel the same way with the Chargers offensive line. Like, if they are able to come out of this having played chicken with the draft and gotten pregnant in the second round and then maybe, gotten a Zeitler, convinced him to move out to the West Coast where evil things happen. Like, if they've done that, right, in the process, you're like, wow, fair play, right? That's absolutely outstanding work. You played chicken and won. But I would argue that it's more important to just lock it down, just get it done.
Yeah.
And if that is Ioane with pick number 22, I think it's just a slam dunk to make happen. Now, obviously, if he gets taken at pick number 21, they can't do that, and that's why I say that's sort of worst case scenario for them.
Let's go. So the Eagles go offensive line in both cases. Ihanicher and Caden Proctor.
Yep.
Proctor for DJ and Ihanicher for Mel. Again, go back to the Eagles. I think I think if the right pass rusher's there or the right offensive tackle's there, both make sense. It's the time when they would do it.
The trenches.
Back to the trenches for Philadelphia in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
I could also see them not liking either guy and trying to trade down. I don't know if there's a partner, but I could see them trying to trade down as well from this spot. Browns go Mekhi Lemon for Mel because they took Monroe Freeling originally.
Yep.
So they go tackle receiver.
So like every other mock draft, in both cases, they are going tackle receiver. It's just in different order.
And DJ goes receiver, tackle, and I like the way he words it, or his ghostwriter words it. Cleveland's gamble back at pick 6 pays off as a left tackle prospect with first-round talent is still available here.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, The chalk pick for Cleveland is not necessarily the players; it's the positions.
I would choose.
I haven't seen a mock draft that doesn't see them come out of it with a tackle and a receiver.
We need somebody just giving them like 2 edge rushers.
I'm sure somebody's done it somewhere, but again, like I haven't. Didn't we do it one time where it's like just for the hell of it, give them a
I think
edge
we
rusher
went
or whatever?
Avion Terrell at one point, which was fun.
So I mean, I'm sure it happens, but like pretty much every mock draft out there has got them going tackle, receiver in some order.
I can't wait till June when I forget who the real pick was. I start to confuse the real pick with the 15 mocks that we just discussed.
Just every
who did
wide
they draft?
receiver or tackle.
I have no idea.
Probably with the Browns.
Isn't Mekhi Lemon on the Rams? No, the Browns drafted him. I have no idea. All right, let's make a choice here. If you're the Browns,
would you
rather Daniel Jeremiah's version, which is Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, and then Utah tackle Caleb Lomu, or Mel Kiper's version, Georgia offensive tackle Monroe Freeling, and Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. I'm a big, so I like both of those receivers.
Yeah.
And I have similar questions about both tackles.
Right. It's actually, I mean, it's worked out pretty well in terms of they're very comparable. Like, I think this is a fairly reasonable either or. I think I would go with Tate Lomu over the other way, but I think it's close.
I'd go Tate Lomu as well. I would go with DJ over Mel as my choice here for the Browns. But it is close because Tate, different type of receiver from Mekhi Lemon. I'd prefer Tate, I think. Lomu, I still see him and Freeling as both needing some work at offensive tackle, and I'd prefer Lomu, redshirt sophomore. I'd prefer him. So I just slightly prefer both Browns selections here.
And just that feel like if both guys have question marks, the guy taking a 24 feels like better value than the guy taking a 6.
Exactly. And then Bears taking Emmanuel McNeil-Warren for DJ and Zion Young, edge rusher out of Missouri.
Yeah, I think either one is a solid pick. I think I would probably prefer the defensive line impact, but I don't hate adding McNeil-Warren to Kobe Bryant, their free agent signing, and continuing that secondary being in good shape.
All right, we'll wrap this up shortly here, but quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage, but when Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. Need a tow truck, jump start, or lock your keys in the car? Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You get started today at Root.com. All right, let's go picks 26 through 32. Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, dueling mocks. We'll start with Mel. The Buffalo Bills at pick 26 are taking Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson. San Francisco 49ers are taking offensive tackle Blake Miller out of Clemson. Houston Texans taking Christian Miller, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Kansas City Chiefs from the Rams taking Brandon Cece, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Miami Dolphins are taking Keldrick Falk out of Auburn, defensive end. That's the Broncos pick that the Dolphins just traded for. New England Patriots are taking Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M. And the Seattle Seahawks are taking Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee. For DJ, pick 26, Buffalo Bills taking Cassius Howell, short-armed edge rusher out of Texas A&M. We'll see what pro day looks like. San Francisco 49ers taking tight end Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Houston Texans taking Chase Basantis, interior offensive lineman out of Texas A&M. Kansas City Chiefs taking Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee. And Miami Dolphins taking Keldrick Falk for DJ. So there's your same thing going here at pick 30. New England Patriots taking defensive tackle Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. And the Seattle Seahawks taking Jadarian Price, Notre Dame running back, the other Notre Dame running back at pick 32.
Yeah. I forget. They were making these comments around the combine time. Would this have been – is this the first time that no, it's not because the Cadillac Williams,
Auburn.
Brown. Yeah. There's
Renner, when Renner first – when he put his draft rankings together.
It's the order, I think. There's some weird sequence that the two running backs from the same school going in a specific order can have for the first time in history or something this year.
Oh, because Cadillac and Ronnie Brown, there was Cedric Benson was in between.
Yeah.
For those who don't know.
So I think this could be the first time. Yeah.
Ronnie Brown from Auburn at 2.
Right.
Cedric Benson from Texas at 4.
Right.
And then Cadillac Williams at 5 from Auburn. So Auburn had 2 running backs go in the top 5.
Right.
I'm going to say that'll never happen in NFL history again.
I think this is the first time that 2 running backs from the same school can go 1-2.
Top 2 at that position.
Yes. I think that's the thing that they can do.
Crazy.
That's unique.
Chat was asking about Mike Washington Buzz from Arkansas. He is moving up quite a bit here.
So Price getting into the first round is pretty interesting. That's not out there in too many mock drafts.
It is. Seattle's in an interesting spot because what happens
He's
a lot of times.
47 on the consensus board at the moment.
So this is
which is in the range of sneaking into the first round.
If we start with Seattle here, since you mentioned it, I like the Colton Hood pick here for Seattle at 32. If you're talking about a physical corner to replace Reek Woolen on the outside, a lot of times what happens with the Super Bowl champion is you give them the need, right? You give them the running back or whatever, and that is a glaring need. But as we said on the needs show, they could use the defensive line help and replacement for Boye Mafe. Could still use cornerback help with Reek Woolen leaving. Like they're losing some players here from Seattle, and there's a lot of the money that they have to spend. They just gave to JSN. They're paying some players in the coming years here. So I like the Colton Hood move at corner a little bit more than the running back. But
yeah, Hood getting into the first round in both mocks. I don't know. I'm a little bit lower on him than the consensus seems to be. He feels like a good fit for the scheme that doesn't play there anymore. Like if Pete Carroll had drafted Colton Hood, that would make a lot of sense to me. I don't know that I love him as much in this specific defense, but I get it. I mean, I think you're right overall that cornerback makes some sense for Seattle.
Bills taking Avion Terrell. Let's go back to the Bills. Terrell at corner at 26. That'd be the second straight year they take a corner. Or Cassius Howell. I think we did that in our mock with Marcus last week. I'd be happy with either one. I think that's for Bills fans, there's a chance to get an impact defensive player. I think they would love Thieneman to be there, but he might not be. He's not there in either one. I think Howell, as a pass rusher, as we said last week, if he's going to be your twitched up edge rusher, is Twitch? Can we say Twitch anymore? Or is that someone going to
say
think
it? You just have to know that there are people out there that don't seem to
they
understand
think it's
what
bend
it
or speed to power, or they think it's something else. But I think
And
Howell,
then they're going to mock you for using it correctly.
of course.
Yeah.
Howell has Twitch. Love him as a compliment to Gregory Rousseau and what else they have on the Deion Walker. Think about those body types that they have on the defensive line for the Bills. It's almost like I get swayed where I say I would love a great running back if he has a great running QB next to him. That almost helps the case because I feel like those are force multipliers. I think someone like Howell, who might not have the requisite length, it helps when someone else does on the line because now, again, you've got this flexibility and ability to throw different body types at the offensive line. It almost makes it more palatable to me, whether that's right or wrong, to have Howell there with Buffalo. And Terrell's an interesting one because I think he could play outside. I think he could play in the slot. And if Buffalo is rolling out there with Avion Terrell in the slot as they lose Teron Johnson, if he's in the slot with Maxwell Hairston and Christian Benford, kind of love that if I'm the Bills. I do love that if I'm the Bills.
I think either one of these draft picks is great for Buffalo. I think they both fit. I think you're right, they're both neat fits within the defense where on the defensive line, they can afford Howell to be a designated pass rusher because they already roll pretty deep. They like having that kind of rotation anyway. It's the perfect landing spot for him. Philadelphia would be another one where it's like it doesn't really matter if he can't defend the run. And again, I think he can just in a different way. Doesn't set a good edge, but he can defend the run. Buffalo, that's fine. It makes perfect sense. I love Cassius Howell. I just think he's so good at the stuff that he's good at that – okay, the run defense, whatever, the arm length thing is just, I don't know what to do with that. You're dealing with a guy who doesn't just have short arms, but has basically the shortest arms.
Just bump it up. It was 30, it's 31 now. Just bump it up to
Even
31.
if it's 31, it's half an inch shorter than the outlier.
I know.
No matter what you do to his arm length, he's going to have a historical outlier level of short arms, right? which is, again, like you would be crazy not to at least acknowledge that that's a red flag. So, but he's so good. His burst is great. His hustle is great. He makes a ton of plays. Didn't make a ton of plays against the best opposition he played against. That's a thing. He's an unusual prospect, but I love him this late in the first round of Buffalo. I think Terrell would make a lot of sense as well.
Niners going Kenyon Sadiq for DJ. Second time he's mocked Sadiq to the Niners. I think I would love to see that. I think you root for fun. You root for chaos and fun generally, right?
Yeah.
I think Sadiq to the Niners would just be fun. Because if I did get maybe I would get my wish, he'd be in the backfield every now and then. But even him, just as the either early compliment to George Kittle and eventual replacement as that different type of tight end, but tight end target, man, what they could do offensively, especially bringing in Mike Evans as well.
Yeah, and even injury insurance. Kittle miss some time injured. Maybe you want to just get some cover for him in case that happens. It would be a fascinating draft pick. I mean, he's got incredible ability, and plugging him into a Kyle Shanahan offense feels like it would be fantastic to see. And
then shout out to Mel, so because he gives the Niners Blake Miller, who's a right tackle at Clemson, and when Mel came up, there were right tackles only. There were he's evolved, but he may not have changed the way he ranks his outside linebackers. He's worse than what the NFL.com had,
or his hairdo.
Oh, his hair's fine.
But that's what I'm saying. He hasn't evolved that either. It's remained.
Nor should he.
It's remained in.
Nor should he.
Since 1970, whatever.
Credit to him. But he's at least changed and said, hey, Blake's played 97% of his college snaps on the right side. He could move to the left side. You would never hear that from any draft analyst 15, 20 years ago. So shout out to him.
You say that. He said he followed that with perhaps he'd transition to the left side if the Niners can't figure out Williams' contract. But I like Miller as an upgrade over Colt McKivitz in the right side.
I don't know if that's true, but McKivitz was good. It's good again, or became good. Anyway, the Christian Miller defensive tackle out of Georgia to the Texans move, I continue to be really intrigued by the Texans adding a disruptive defensive tackle, even though they already have they added Logan Hall and brought back Sheldon Rankins. I am very intrigued by that for Houston. Miller, I think, would be fun there. Peter Woods would be fun there. I think not because it's a need, just because it could be a long-term need, to be honest, but love adding more disruption to that defensive line.
Yeah,
the right players there.
I think a defensive tackle that can cause problems up the middle, I think, could also absolutely turbocharge, multiply the effect of the edge rushers that they already have, and they're paying a ton of money to, or will be paying a ton of money to. Those guys will get more opportunities if you have someone that can make an impact up the middle.
Chiefs go corner in both mocks here. DJ's got Colton Hood and Brandon Cece for Mel. So that's another common one for the Chiefs, is just corner late in the first. It might not be the right value. I mean, I could see them taking Delane at 9, but I do feel like there's just so many ways that the Chiefs could go, because I think the value's right there for certain players at 9, but I think they'd prefer to go offensive, defensive line at 9, maybe the right receiver, and then there should be some back end of the first round cornerback talent here, and that's where Hood and CC come in.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Rams, but in reverse. Like, they actually earned the crappy pick, the top 10 draft pick,
right?
By not being good last year, and then their bonus first round pick is the one from trading away Trent McDuffie. Yeah, it'll be an interesting choice, like how they approach having an unusual top 10 draft pick when this is usually a team picking around here, 29. But they do need to come out of the first round, I think, with a cornerback, basically having traded away their best one and then let another starter leave in free agency.
CeCe's a good athletic corner out of South Carolina. Not, I think he's a fringe first round type.
Yeah,
and be a good spot for him in Kansas City. The other part, too, is if they don't go corner here, as we've said before, do they lean into a mid-round pick and just say, hey, Spags, work your magic, or bring back L'Jarius Sneed for nothing because, it's probably worth it at this point, isn't it?
I think
you don't think so? You think he's done? I mean, he didn't look good at all in Tennessee at all.
Unless you're 100% convinced that he was like a complete construction of Spags the whole way. I don't think his tapes. I don't think you would look at his.
I'm just saying, there's a world where he could come back, and it's like it's the right fit, it's the right scheme. You get him back in Kansas City, and you steal a starter for nothing, and you have these extra draft picks to fill other spots. I'd be interested to see what those conversations are like in Kansas City right now. How about the Dolphins taking Keldrick Falk in both drafts here?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a better for a guy that you say, okay, he's missing some pass rush chops that you'd like to see in the first round, but as a 20-year-old at 6'6", 280, who can move pretty well and is a very good player, very good run defender. If at worst you get a very good run defender and some physicality that Miami would need, I don't hate it at 30.
No, I mean, again, he's consensus 18 right now. When Mike Sando put out his sort of, here's some things I've heard from executives coming out of the combine, they had him in the top 10. Maybe that was over-egging it, but if he's 18 on the consensus board, getting him at the bottom of the first round is amazing value, independent of also he's young, the development the potential, et cetera. I mean, someone out there said, like, if he's got several years to get to where imagine what he would be if he stayed in college the whole way and then came out the same age as Mesidor. Like, he might be the best player of all time. Now, it probably doesn't work like that consistently, and that projection is why it's a debate in the first place. But theoretically, you should be able to develop him going forward. Chop Robinson underachieved last year. You've got this sort of collection of underachieving edge rushers now. They need an edge rusher, so it makes sense from that point of view, and I think he's value at this spot. Yeah, it makes sense. And in both cases, right, he would be the obvious next edge available.
Right.
Everyone above him that would ranked is already gone.
All right, and then the New England Patriots, the only team we haven't discussed here. Casey Concepcion for Mel, wide receiver out of A&M, and then Caden McDonald, defensive tackle out of Ohio State at 31. It's an acute need with Tonga out at nose tackle. McDonald, different style player than what they have in Milton Williams or Christian Barmore right now. Mm-hmm. As far as just an elite, he's also young too, elite run-stopping enforcer, line of scrimmage enforcer. And then Concepcion, because they've had a pretty common wide receiver pick here. He would be a good vertical complement, I would say, to the Romeo Doubs signing. Yeah,
that would be a decent signing. It would also be completing their evolution into the Packers wide receiver core, where it's it's the same thing. We probably don't have a number one elite guy, but we're ticking every box with the skill set. And just have a collection of number 2 and number 3 wide receivers, which, again, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, particularly where they were before they started investing in wide receiver. Yeah, I think Concepcion would fit there. I think McDonald, it's like Buffalo. I kind of like either way here.
I saw one complaint from a Bears fan, so maybe it was Will's burner. We didn't talk about the Bears' 2 picks long enough. He was upset.
Long enough.
Okay. So I'll give you a little bit more. There are 2 picks: Zion Young, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I think Young is a fringe first rounder. I think he had a really nice Senior Bowl. I don't know if I want to take him at 25. We've gone back and forth. We've put him in the late first for various mock drafts. I think he's more of a second round player. I think the second round edge rush group is better than it usually is. The second, third round edge rush group. It's really difficult to find edge rushers in rounds 2 and 3 historically,
right,
or at least impact starters. I think you might have more of a chance. Joseph's from Tennessee. It depends on how far TJ Parker ends up falling. I think the second round edge rushers are going to look a little bit better than they do in other drafts. McNeil-Warren could be the third safety. If Thieneman has passed him, I think he just passed him on the consensus board. I think McNeil-Warren's really good value in the back end of the first. Could play in and around the line of scrimmage. I think he could play quarters, moves pretty well, good size, tackler. I think he's a really, really good player. Renner, we'll see I can't remember what he said about him on the show, but I think since the last time we did the defensive rankings, that he was texting me about him even more, being like, yeah, he's a dude. I think McNeil-Warren ends up being really good value. Back into the first, I'd be happy if I'm the Bears in either case as far as adding pass rush or safety help there. But I like McNeil-Warren a little bit better value-wise there.
Yeah, I think he would represent better value given the overall consensus, given where people are expected to go. But I think that edge rusher is the bigger need for them. So I get taking Zion Young there. He's 37 on the consensus board. Anybody ranked in the 30s and the 40s is within reasonable range of sneaking into the bottom third of the first round. It's just
all
the way,
fair game.
Yeah, that's just the way mock drafts go. The consensus board goes. It may be a slight reach right now, but any of those guys actually making it into the first round would not shock anybody. So, yeah, it's not as good value, but it takes a bigger need. So it's how do you balance those two things?
All right, there we go. No plagiarism, I don't think, in this one. I think they worked independently this year.
Yeah.
DJ and Mel.
They were good. Those are two interesting mocks because they agreed on a bunch of kind of chalky picks, and then they diverged heavily and got a bunch of interesting names in and around, and in different places than we've seen them before. That's the highest I've seen a couple of different players end up in mocks.
Yeah, I think DJ does a really good job of mixing in a little bit of what he's hearing, and then you could feel his top 50 creep in there as well. You could feel his evaluation sneak in there a little bit because he always has a few unique. Remember, I think he was the only one who had TJ Sanders in the first round at one point last year, the South Carolina defensive tackle. Back when Sanders was thought of as a third rounder, and I think he eventually goes in the second. But DJ tends to drop a few nuggets in there as far as players that he likes a little bit more, but also a little bit of what he's hearing. And then Mel does, I think, more what he's hearing than the actual evals at this point. Mm-hmm. I'll just say the other thing about Mel, love him. The old ESPN drafts that I watch and everything, it is funny, and we were guilty of this at times. It is funny how so much of the analysis was just around what Mel thought.
Yes, all of it.
And it was
still is.
But I'm saying, like, all the analysts around there were like, man, this is a reach. And it's all based off of Mel's solitary board. And I didn't realize that as much till I went back and saw that.
But it's not even. I mean, he ruined.
Like, he's the source of truth,
right? But he ruined the draft last year because he spent all 3 days banging on about how people were screwing Shedeur Sanders because he had him as either QB1 in the draft or like a top first round draft pick. So the entire draft was just Mel Kiper bitching about every team being an idiot because they were letting Shedeur Sanders fall to the point where hosts on the show had to be like, Mel, we get it. Shut up now. Like, talk about something different. So, we understand.
I want to be self-aware in this whole thing because I think our early years covering the draft where we had a more analytically driven board or whatever, we probably leaned on, like, Mel inspired all of us in certain ways, right? Like, or taught you how to analyze this thing. And I think a lot of us have copied elements of that, which is like, here's where I think a player should be going, and he hasn't gone this way, or he's gone higher than I thought. This is a steal. This is a reach. This is but I feel like you and I have tried to, when you watch us on draft night, try to do it a little bit differently and analyze the pick and what the team's thinking and what they may have considered and the consensus board versus just our own opinion and just bring a slightly different view there. Now, there's definitely points where, like 2 years ago, when Troy Franklin was still on the board and we were like, man, we thought he'd be gone by pick 40 and he's still there. Where's Troy Franklin? Where's Troy? So we get into some of that sometimes, but I feel like we've changed a little bit to more of like, let's analyze what they're actually doing instead of saying, oh, my favorite player's still out here. You guys are
last year, I think, is a perfect example of that, right? Like, no matter where people were on Shedeur Sanders, that was a unique draft where you couldn't, to continue, like the further down the draft it went, to continually act as if like this is just a normal situation and I have him as the best player on my board and have for the last 3 days, therefore team should take him, is utterly ridiculous. Like, and we were saying from reasonably early on, like I had him as a first round draft pick. I would have taken him, at 9 or whatever, or whatever the various landing spots were. But the second he made it past Pittsburgh in the first round, well, now we're talking about something completely different because all of a sudden he's not viewed as a starter in teams' eyes. Now you're weighing up the headache of a Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders circus versus a backup court. Like, the math is different, right? And so it was an interesting thing to talk about, but it was no longer a conversation of he's the number one player on the board, therefore every team for the next 2.5 days should take him, right? That's not what the debate was, and yet that's what Mel was doing for 3 days.
Yeah, and I know I'm not breaking news here. This is why he became famous with the Trent Dilfer thing back in '94. Like, so much of the analysis is like, here's where I have him on my board, and the teams are missing out by disagreeing with me, which I think is funny.
But not just missing out, but this team is therefore stupid. Like, he's one of the most, antagonizing.
Well, The other funny thing is I
haven't
watched a draft in 15 years now. We've been covering it, right? I don't think I've actually tuned into a draft since 2015, maybe.
Right.
Because we've been live on air or covering it or live blogging or whatever it was, and I was just getting the pick and writing about it. So I really didn't know how Mel's analysis had changed in recent years until I saw the clips last year, and it's like, oh, he's still kind of comparing to his.
The answer is it hasn't.
It hasn't as much. Still love him. Gotta respect the Godfather for putting it all on the map. Yeah. Don't you?
Sure.
You don't have to.
I mean,
Anything else for today's show? So for members, here's what we're doing. We've been doing this the last couple shows. We wrap the show.
Yeah.
We take about a minute.
Yeah. There's two things we need to do before that. First of all, someone points out we did basically skip over the Minnesota Vikings entirely. We mentioned that both mocks had them taking Thieneman, but we then didn't really talk about that.
Crazy athletic safety. I think the Vikings.
Crazy athletic.
He's athletic by every measure, both combine and on-field measures. He can fly around the field. He's got true free safety skills.
Mm-hmm. And range.
I've described him. So I hadn't viewed it like this until recently, and Thieneman really accentuated this for me. The safeties have to read the quarterback and they have to read the receiver. So like when you're in quarters, you're matching a receiver. You're kind of reading the route concepts, but you're not reading the quarterback as much. I think he's better at reading the quarterback. Eyes on the QB, and then breaking on the ball and making a play. I think he's worse when you say, hey, you're playing quarters, you're taking this vertical, you got to stick with this receiver one-on-one. Now, he's not as good there, but because of the athleticism, he's so good at closing on the catch point and making plays on the ball. I just think he's your classic eyes on the QB, free safety, but he could do it all because of that athleticism, and he's just a good overall football player as well.
So obviously, like, people will link him to Harrison Smith a lot because Harrison Smith's retiring and for other obvious reasons.
They're both white.
Correct. I don't think, however, they're particularly close proxies as players. Like I think he's a very different player to Harrison Smith, even though he would solve a safety need departure spot. They also, theoretically, they don't need a safety. I mean, Theo Jackson and Josh Metellus are there. Now, they do if they want to roll three deep and have the big nickel third safety that they run a lot with that defense. But it's not like you wouldn't look at this defensive depth chart and, like, on a different team, be like, oh, wow, they need a starting safety. Like, they might be fine without that. I think corner is potentially a bigger need for them than safety, or they could go a variety of different plays. It is interesting that this is sort of settled in to being such a chalky pick, where I think the Vikings could go in a variety of different ways here.
I'm assuming we'll have timestamps for each team at some point.
Hopefully, otherwise you're not finding the Vikings discussion.
And if we do, it'll be like everything's in order, and then it's like, oh, Steve and Sam come back to the Bears. Steve and Sam come back to the Eagles. What else do you guys – Seattle, we already talked about. We can't just take every request.
So then the next thing we need to talk about is I need to get your take on the flag football tournament, I guess, that took place.
Oh, boy.
What are your takes?
I only saw the highlights.
You only saw the highlights.
First off, the one highlight I saw where Brady juked a rusher and then threw an absolute laser beam.
Yeah.
That ball was fired, man.
Uh-huh.
Still play.
Well, according to him, he's a top 5 quarterback still.
He's not wrong.
He might be wrong.
I think he still could be. Anyway, my original takeaway is it's a different game. It's a completely different game.
Yeah.
And so they lost because they were playing people who play flag football.
Well, which
is a completely different game.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, my thoughts are I don't think that the assembly of NFL talent that they got for this game is particularly representative of the types of NFL players that should be playing flag football, right? Like, you got, in some cases, retired, in some cases for a while, ex-NFL players that were not particularly twitchy at their best, twitchy. And you're like, well, those guys should be playing flag football. Like, they wouldn't have been the best flag football players when they were at their peak. And they've just been run out of the league for no longer being able – like, they're not even representative of NFL athleticism, let alone flag football athleticism.
Let me sum this up. Is Kadarius Toney, is he retired? Like, Kadarius Toney, who has
Zay
no
Flowers
business –
is the best flag football player in the NFL right now.
Kadarius
He's
Toney
not available
would be as well.
Meanwhile, you've got –
I don't want Kadarius Toney anywhere near my NFL football team right now at this point in his career. he's like a top 3 pick.
Exactly.
For flag.
Meanwhile, you've got like Nuke Hopkins, who's, trying to convince teams that he can still be an elite downfield, like possession, 50-50 go ball type of player. OBJ somehow out here being like, yeah, and just occasionally snagging a one-handed pass in the end zone. But OBJ can't really cut it in the NFL anymore. Nuke Hopkins, Harrison Smith just retired. Luke Kuechly is out here. When did he retire? Like 5 years ago.
He's already in the Hall of Fame.
Also, number one, he retired like 5 years ago. Number two, he's trying to like do this on a roster with like influencers, like Logan Paul and that speed guy that's everywhere on YouTube. Like, give the man some players to work with as well as influencers. So I think if the NFL came back with a team that was comprised of like these are the guys, like you would want Zay Flowers, you would want Marcus Jones, you would want Calvin Austin. Like those are the players you would want for flag football, right? And Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Jaden Daniels, to be fair, would be pretty high up on the list as well, who was on one of the rosters. But like these are the players that you would want actually assembled for flag football. And even then, they'd probably get wrecked by the small little guys who are too fast for it.
So there's the player issue. So do you have the right people? And then there's the plays issue.
Right.
The completely different playbooks, right? It's not even like in high school. There's this big question about high school kids, and they play more 7-on-7. And on paper, I remember thinking years ago, on paper, this must be really good, right? If you're a future college linebacker or safety, think about the reps that you get in 7-on-7, playing cover 2, playing cover 3, and that's how my thought process was until you realize, well, the actual 7-on-7 coverages and plays are completely different. You're actually not getting good football reps in 7-on-7. You're not seeing route concepts the same way you would. So you're actually not getting the right football reps. It's a completely different thing. There's laterals and there's throwback to the center and there's all different rules and plays, and it's all different. And so I'll tell you the worst take that I saw. And I don't even know who it was. I can't even acknowledge it.
Okay.
Basically somebody being like, it's a big blow for the NFL. It's bad for the NFL.
It's bad for the NFL.
There is no world where the people that you just laid out, a bunch of retired NFL players losing to flag football specialists.
Oh, it exposed the NFL as a fraudulent football entity.
There is no world where this puts a dent in the juggernaut that is the National Football League.
No, I mean, it's a different sport. Like, put the 135-pound guy in pads, and then we'll have a conversation.
And I ask everybody who has that opinion or oh man, this just one step further. I ask everybody to take one step further, and that's what it's a different sport. It's a different sport, and you're throwing retired players up against people who do this for a living.
The size of some of these guys is amazing. Like, there's one of these guys was legitimately like a 135-pound human. Right?
RG3 did announce that he'll be playing for the U.S.
Yeah, but in vague terms, it's like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean I'm going to try flag football now, which is fine, but you won't get anywhere near the roster
or
based
he's been
off what we just saw. Right, or like I've been invited to the team.
I mean, peak RG3 would probably be a great player.
Sure, but we're not, again, it's like, when was peak RG3 relative to now? Right? Like, that was a weird tweet. I didn't quite understand what that actually meant.
Given RG3 and his history there, it probably was like, I'm throwing my name out
there. Like, it's like, I'm a podcaster now, so I'm going to give this flag football thing
Brady
a whirl.
Quinn's going to announce he wants to play too.
And it's like, based off like this, there will be teams out there that RG3 can join and try and compete for the U.S. men's national team. But again, based off this tournament, he's not going to get anywhere near that final roster. And that's the thing. It's like, this began as like, think of all these NFL players that are going to walk onto the flag football team. We're like, I don't know if that's going to happen. And based off this, it won't. Like, they won't. None of them right now are going to get anywhere near this team. Now, I think there are NFL players that can, but most of them were not in attendance for this tournament. That's the thing. It's like I think what it showed you is if there are NFL players that do genuinely want to make this Olympic team and play flag football, A, it's going to be difficult, and B, the right guys actually need to try out for it as opposed to retired people that want to give it a shot.
It sounded like you were watching this live.
I did actually watch some of this. Not. I didn't watch all of it. I missed the first couple of games, but then I saw people tweeting about it. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Let's watch this.
I'm not anti-fun or anything. I just don't think I'll be interested in it.
I was kind of interested in it, but it is funny. The size discrepancy is amazing. I mean, Luke Kuechly is not a particularly large human being anymore. Neither is Harrison Smith. And like those guys looked like, I mean, they're so much bigger than the people that were these little dancing jitterbugs
Yeah, you need
that are
space
playing
players.
flag football. But those guys, like, these are the people that if they had to take a single hit in the NFL would probably snap in half.
So I would compare it. I think if you took some
Tank
major
Dell
league,
has 20 pounds on some of these guys.
you wouldn't know this guy, but Walt probably has heard of him. There was an old men's softball pitcher.
Old men.
And he did something. It was called like the king in his court. Like he's old enough that like my high school coach used to tell me about him. The king in his court, and he could throw like 100 miles an hour underhand or something insane. Not 100, but like whatever, 75. Whatever is incredible for softball.
Right.
Underhand for softball, 75 is insane. And he would pitch. He would like go on tour, and you'd have like these major league hitters try to pitch a hit against him, and they couldn't hit. And then he'd pitch from second base, and they still couldn't hit him. It was like this It was like the Globetrotters of men's softball. And I think there's probably some crossover to this. Like if you took a Major League Baseball team and said, hey, go play this elite men's softball team, where it's a different game. It's a different game with the same idea, right? The difference between baseball and softball is probably comparable to real football and flag football. So there's probably some similarity there, where like if you just did it next week, the softball team's going to win. But if you take the best Major League Baseball players over time and say, hey, train for men's softball, they would probably figure it out and figure out how to hit and everything.
It feels a bit like boxing versus MMA to me. It's like the boxer wins in a stand-up fight against an MMA fighter literally every fight. And
I don't think there's
the reverse is true.
Literally two different sports, though.
Yeah, but they're both fighters.
Literally two different sports.
But one, like MMA fighters box and boxer. Anyway, my point being, the MMA fighter loses to a boxer every single time in stand-up, right? And the boxer loses to an MMA fighter the second it goes into a cage because he has no grappling. I think the same thing is true here, that the NFL players are going to lose to the 5'6", 135-pound like speedsters. But ask that guy to take one hit over the middle to Harrison Smith, that guy's not getting up again, right? Like they're both going to get murdered in the opposite team sport.
Yeah, like size and power doesn't matter in flag football. Speed and quicks.
Yeah, 100%. And the problem with this is, I think it's probably closer than it looked in this tournament because the NFL did not deploy their speediest, shiftiest players. Like there are players that are closer to the standard than the ones we saw.
So if you saw a take that said this is bad for the NFL, this is bad publicity, the league's going down, whatever it may have been, that's asinine.
Yeah, I can't believe anybody.
They're still going to we're going to crush the draft, the NFL. They're going to do more numbers on schedule release night than the NBA does in like game 5 of the finals. Whatever the NFL is going to do 15 international games in week 1 in a couple of years or whatever. The NFL is going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Losing in a random flag football game.
Yeah. The point I was making is that the MMA fighter loses in a boxing match. If I said stand up, my point was in a boxing ring. You also saw there were NFL players that had the same problem with the game that I had, which is you can't hit people, and it's frustrating. Saquon was getting kind of annoyed that he couldn't just run over people.
Oh, I'll give you. I have one more take.
Like sometimes the guy's just going to get in your way and you can't run him over. It's frustrating.
I'll give you one more thing here. I don't know what's happening contractually that these current players are able to do
Joe
that.
Joe Burrow was out here.
I could not believe
life on the line.
Joe Burrow's out there. I mean, they're on turf, right? Where turf is. So, just be honest here. Turf from the NFLPA, which admittedly not the most organized group
or impartial.
Turf is evil, according to the NFLPA.
Yeah.
And they have superstars opting in to play this flag football game on the evil turf that causes all the injuries, right? We've got all the data. All the injuries happen on turf, and we don't want turf. We want grass, right? This was on turf, right?
Sure.
Whatever it was.
I wasn't paying attention to the field service.
Even if it wasn't, certainly. I could not believe that players could play because most players have clauses in their contract. You can't play basketball, right? You can't play. If you break an ankle, roll an ankle in basketball, you're given money back. Most people have that in their contract. I can't believe that NFL current players were out there playing.
But also like Joe Burrow was out there playing the way Joe Burrow plays regular football, which is like launching himself into ridiculous, not hits, but like twisting himself, contorting himself,
yeah.
like landing hip first on the turf from 4 feet in the air as he dives into the end zone, these types of things. You're like, I mean, there was a tweet out there, like Bengals fans having a stroke watching Joe Burrow play this game. Like, can you imagine a guy with his injury history coming out of this? Can you imagine if he comes out and it's like, Burrow's done for the year.
Do you remember?
Based off playing in the Fanatics, like Joe Burrow, whilst evading Logan Paul or whatever, ends up blowing his Achilles and is done for the year. Bengals fans would have a conniption.
Do you remember Robert Edwards, Patriots running back?
No.
So 1998, Robert Edwards gets drafted. He runs for 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns as a rookie. I want to say was he a second round pick? No, first round. 18th overall pick. So picture this. He's the 18th pick in the draft, runs for 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns as a rookie. That offseason, I think at the Pro Bowl, they were playing a flag football game on the beach, blows out a knee, an awful knee injury. He missed the next 2 years with this knee and leg injury, as bad as it gets. Missed 01. He came back. He only had 20 more carries in his entire NFL career. Basically, career ended on like either beach flag football, whatever they were doing. Beach, he might have been beach volleyball. I don't know, whatever. He was on the beach and blew out his knee, and it was awful. And the NFL nixed that forever. Like, this is
being on the beach?
Just whatever game that they were playing, like part of like the Pro Bowl games or whatever it was.
Oh.
I think it was like an event at the Pro Bowl, like a rookie flag football game or whatever, and he blows out his knee and misses the next 2 years. He actually missed the next 3 years, didn't take a snap. And so I can't even believe this is a thing with NFL play. I cannot believe it's a thing, especially with guys like Joe Burrow.
I suspect, the Joe Burrow thing.
Someone says it's volleyball. It was somewhere on the beach, which makes more sense. Like, I don't think they would play beach flag.
I mean, I suspect
but it was something that the NFL did that they ended up nixing.
I suspect that's why the rosters were what they were. Like, I suspect there was not free reign of any player to stock these teams, and that's why we ended up with some recently retired guys and some not so recently retired guys.
Can't believe Burrow's one of them.
And some influencers. I think what it did, though, like, remember when this was first announced, like, oh, the NFL players will be eligible for flag football, it's in the Olympics, blah, blah. And there was just this, like, tsunami of people who were like, we're going to have this roster of NFL guys, blah, blah. It's like, I think it showed, like, you should respect the players that are already there and have been doing this, because it's a lot harder than you think it is, and it's a different skill set. And these guys rocked up, wrecked every single other team that was out there, to the tune of the only drive they didn't score a touchdown on was when they took a knee in. Like, they scored a touchdown every drive that they were trying to score a touchdown on. Like, it showed that you should have some respect to the people that already play this game. And the NFL players, just because they're NFL players, are not going to walk on to this flag football roster and go win an Olympic gold.
It's a different game. Different game.
Which is ironic, because the only comparable thing I can think of here was when Antoine Dupont, the best rugby player in the world, went to play sevens and immediately just walked on as the best player in the sevens as well, won a gold. Like, he did a side quest of just going to win an Olympic gold medal just for giggles. Like, I'm already the best rugby player in the world. I'm going to go win Olympic gold playing sevens, even though it's a totally different game and I've never done it before, and did. And
impressive.
France don't belong winning Olympic gold, but Dupont being on the team, he did. Like, that's the only example. Like, that would be like, Lamar Jackson, not even like Mahomes at the peak of his powers, being like, I'm bored of this NFL thing. It's too easy. Going to play flag, winning Olympic gold, and then just coming back a year later and be like, all right, I'm ready to go win another Super Bowl. That's the only, like, that's what that would be like.
Love it. Well, I'm glad we got that discussion in.
Yep.
All right, we're going to wrap the main show. We're going to be back Wednesday, 9 a.m., Thursday, 9 a.m. this week. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit thumbs up on the way out. We're going to wrap the main show. For members, we're going to stick around. We're talking Jeremiah Love. We're talking Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson. We'll continue our draft profile series here. A bunch of those are already dropped on the channel, but you get a first look if you're a member. Mm-hmm. All right, appreciate everybody for tuning in and being here. We'll see you again Wednesday. More Check the Mic.